Tutaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you're watching. Thank you so much for making time to join us. This is Sound Candy Talk, Open Forum Political Discussion Show, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, a lot is taking place so fast, and everyone must work hard to stay on the cutting edge as far as making sense of our politics is concerned. The aftermath from Addis are still spreading across, and questions are being raised on what is really happening with one person, Raila Odinga. Now, one such person that brought up soul-searching questions is the Grand Mullah, Abdullahi Ahmed Nasir, the senior lawyer that has not been a fan of Raila Odinga for as long as I can remember. But today in his post, he asked questions that I would love us to dive into even as we start the conversation. And I invite your input even as we look into these questions. And they look like he's implying something that all of us need to consider. So I invite your input even as we start the conversation. Please make sure you don't watch the show alone. Be our extension right where you are from what you are getting. Make sure that you are sharing the link widely to get more people to join and be part of the great conversation. This is one place where all Kenyans from every walk of life gather on one platform that touches all the four corners of the globe, where all of us can share about our country and what needs to be done. So this Grand Mullah had this post, which I want to invite you even as we start the conversation. And this is what he says in his post. He says, they don't want Raila Odinga to be president of Kenya. They don't want him to be president of African Union. Where do they want him to go? Well, that is something that we'll need to consider, and I hope somebody has an answer out there to come and tell me where they want him to go. I'm sure there are those who say they want him to go to Bondo, where they have been sending him all along, and they have never succeeded in delivering him to Bondo. After they put traps everywhere to stop him from entering State House, they found him inside. So we don't know how it will be, but we need your response on the same. Where do they want him to go? They don't want him to be president of Kenya. Who are these that don't want him to be the president of Kenya? They don't want him to be the president of the African Union. Who are these that don't want him to be the president of the African Union? And where do they want him to go? Something that I would love to hear your side of the story. And then, of course, we are all aware of the becoming behavior of our East African leadership, especially in Uganda, as the treatment of Kiza Besigye in custody is not looking anything good. And so the human rights activists plus the Commonwealth have come out to voice their issue about the health aspect of Besigye, and they want him released unconditionally. I don't know what is your take on the same also. I would love to hear what is your take. So you can join. We are live on Sound Candy Talk YouTube channel, Sound Candy Talk Live YouTube channel, Sound Candy Talk TikTok, as well as Sound Candy Talk Facebook page. Please, whichever platform you find it okay to follow us, make sure that you're on the forefront and invite somebody. Let's engage, let us talk, and let us make sense of our politics as we ease life for the masses who are this that don't want him to be president of Kenya, don't want him to be president of Africa, and where do they want him to go? I need those answers as we dive into this great conversation. Then this Besigye story, I really, really want us to look at it closely. Are we, plowing back the freedoms that we have gained along the way? And, the reason why we are talking about Besigye is that the Besigye story had also an impact on the result of the AU elections, in the sense that Besigye was abducted from Kenya, abducted from Kenya illegally against the law by the Ugandan askaris, or if he was abducted by the Kenyan askaris and they handed him over to the Ugandan askaris, only God knows. But from the fact that a sovereign country crossed border into another sovereign soil and was able to abduct their citizen, take him back illegally to their country, now that is a bridge that we talked extensively about. But I want us to look at it. A Besigye story touches on Kenya, and it is affecting the image of Kenya across the globe, and therefore we cannot shy from discussing it. I know some of you will come up and say, are we through discussing Kenyan issues to begin to discuss Ugandan issues? We are part and parcel of this matter, and it is our duty to call things to order when they're especially getting out of hand. And so let's begin with that story of a Besigye, and then of course we'll get back to Ahmed Nasir and his questions about Raila Odinga. So quickly, as we start the conversation, please, kama unakuja studio, hakikisha unatumia link iko kwa comment section. Njoo mapema tukazungumza masuala haya kwa wazi tu. Usingoje wakati show inafunga ndio unakuja kudai kwamba hujapewa nafasi ya kuongea, ulikatisiwa wakati ulikuwa unataka kuongea. Kuja wakati kuna wakati wa kuongea. Kuja hapa na story ya kudileisha show kuisha hapa.
A 56-member nation group, the Commonwealth, and human rights activists have all called on Uganda to release opposition politician Dr. Kizza Besigye, saying his detention undermined democracy and human rights. Civil rights organizations have announced plans to stage demonstrations at Kenya's parliament buildings and the Ugandan embassy to demand the immediate release of Dr. Besigye and other political prisoners. Ben Kirui has more.
The continued detention of Uganda's opposition leader, Dr. Kizza Besigye, has sparked mounting criticism, with Commonwealth nations and civil society groups from across the region uniting in calls for his immediate release. Speaking in Nairobi, activists from Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania condemned the alleged abduction and rendition of Besigye and his ally Haj Obied Lutale, labeling it a blatant violation of international human rights, laws and extradition treaties.
Despite the Supreme Court decision and legal applications for the release of Kizza Besigye, Haj Obied Lutale, lawyer Aaron Kizza, and others, Ugandan authorities have disregarded court orders and continue to arbitrarily deprive them of their liberty.
We call on the Ugandan authorities to immediately release Kizza Besigye, Haj Obeid Lutale, Aaron Kizza, and others who are unlawfully detained.
Dr. Besigye's health has deteriorated rapidly due to a hunger strike protesting his detention. His family has expressed a deep concern over his condition, describing him as weak and dizzy. On Monday, he was transferred to a medical facility in Kampala after experiencing severe weakness and difficulty breathing.
This coming after authorities had repeatedly denied him access to his own doctor is worrying. We fear that this sudden change signals a severe decline in his condition.
The medical union has spoken out and given a scientific medical analysis of Dr. Besigye's health, which is in serious jeopardy.
Free all political prisoners in Uganda.
In response to his continued incarceration, civil rights groups have threatened to stage mass protests, including occupying Kenya's parliament and the Ugandan embassy, to demand the release of all political prisoners.
That, it is only one doctor that is being detained, and this can happen to any professional. We must come out strongly. We are asking Medical Association, we are asking PSK, we are asking Uganda Medical Association, we are asking all the unions and all the bodies that the time to speak is now, and the time to stop all these illegalities is now.
I would like to implore for the East Africans and the citizens in particular to understand that we need to unite against such abductions, because leaders have to understand to be critical, to be a political opposition member is not a crime.
The Commonwealth, through its Secretary General Patricia Scotland, has also urged the Ugandan authorities to free Besigye immediately and ensure he receives the highest standard of medical care. The 56th Nation Organization expressed a deep concern over the prolonged detention of Dr. Besigye, Haj Obeid Lutale, and lawyer Aaron Kizza, arguing that it undermines the Ugandan Supreme Court's ruling of January 31st, 2025. Meanwhile, in a lengthy statement on X, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni dismissed the public outcry, criticizing Ugandans for focusing on Besigye's detention, which he termed a non-issue.
You didn't respond to the point of...
Ben Kiroi, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Mambo ni kama hayo, ladies and gentlemen, kutoka kwa jirani hapa Uganda, kuhusu opposition leader ambaye ameweka kizuizini kwa sababu zisizoeleweka. Na katika hiyo hali wanaharakati wa haki za kibinadamu wanasema kutakuwa na maandamano ya kuhakikisha kwamba huyo opposition leader anaachiliwa pasipo na masharti yeyote. Sijui we maoni yako ni yepi na unaelewa vipi mambo haya? Ni muhimu tuangazie haya kwa sababu kudorora kwa usalama kwa mmoja unadhuru usalama wa kila mmoja wetu. Asante sana. Mami, naona ushafika, vipi?
Salama sana Penat, naingia tu saa hii. Hii zimetukapa lakini yetu.
Sawa, tupatie tuhuma za huyu Besigye kwanza, wewe ndio uko na connection poa.
Yes, Penat, Dr. Kizza Besigye hata chusi nafikiri wiki mbili iliyopita, mtoto wa Museveni, yeye ndiye anaitwa General mkubwa ya army, anasema anataka kunyonga Besigye mchana asubuhi kwa sababu anasema ameenda kinyume ya baba yake. Dr. Kizza Besigye alikuwa daktari ya Museveni, na wakati watu wengi walikuwa msituni, Museveni alienda against yale walikuwa wamekubaliana. Wengi wakawachana na yeye, yenye ijaenda vizuri na Museveni ya chusi, mambo ya Uganda ni ngumu sana kwa sababu Museveni amelete jamii, amelete watu from outside Uganda, Penat, wale wanaongoza Uganda sahi kutoka kwa police, kutoka kwa army, si Waganda Penat, ni watu kutoka nchi ya jirani Rwanda, wale wana spoken Rwanda, na ni wachache lakini wamecapture security. Na US ama United US ndio walikuwa napatia Museveni silaha hili aweze kumaliza vita Kongo. Alikuwa anasema anapigana huko Somali. So wako na pesa mingi na punduki, na ndio Waganda wameenda kwa barabara, wameandamana huku kwa US mara mingi. Sasa ukweli ya Museveni imejulikana, na ndiye Uganda ni mbaya sana. Hata jana ndugu ya Bobi Wine, mkubwa wake anaitwa Chairman Yansi, walikuwa kwa mkutano. Army ya Uganda Penat wanakuja wanakushika kwa barabara na bullet wanamtoa kwa gari na wakapeleka, hata sahi wajui mahali alipo, na watu wengi sana Penat. Museveni ametaka kuanzisha war in Uganda, na hayo naweza sema kidogo, lakini Kizza Besigye na shukuru Martha Karua ameongoza lawyers from Africa. Ndio sababu unaona ulimwengu imeingilia. Tumepata a lot of human rights lawyers ikiongozwa na Martha Karua, na haikuenda vizuri na Museveni. Hata hii mambo unaona Museveni alianza kukataa mambo yetu ni wakati alikuta mama kama Martha Karua ndio wanaongoza mambo ya lawyers ya Uganda kutetea Kizza Besigye. Ingine ni ile mambo alikuwa nasema ya Babu Owino, anamwambia Raila unaweza shika watu yako. Lakini pena sitaki kusema sana ya Uganda. Tuko na tarehe 22 Americans wameanza kwenda street, huku wanaenda Washington DC, wanajaribu kuona yale inaendelea. Penat yetu ni kwamba Kenya patu mambo tunaipata. Naona leo parliament mambo yamekuwa mengi, vile tulikuwa tunaambiwa Junet Mohamed na Mili Otiambo ndio wataoccupy leo kiti ya majority leader kwa parliament, na Penat naona wamesema hapana. Na kulingana na vile nilisikia members of parliament in both sides Penat, mambo hiyo ya OAU imekasirisha watu wengi na campaign. Hata nashangaa kama ni ukweli, kuna statement Oburu wametoa, na tulikuwa tunaambiwa tangu juzi Uhuru Kenyatta alikuwa anatarajiwa kuongea kwa sababu yeye alikuwa naongoza hiyo mkutano ya amani katika Kongo. Na Penat kumbe kuna kiti pia ya Secretary General United Nations, na nasikia chini ya Uhuru watu wamependekeza. Kwa hivyo haingekuwa na ubaya tukiwa na Uhuru, na Mungu atupatie pia tungekuwa na Raila, pengine hata ingekuwa rahisi tungecapture hiyo kiti. Lakini ni kama kuna watu wanawekea, kuna wenye wanatoshea. Lakini Penat, I am happy that Kenyans wamefungua macho na wanasema tukue pamoja. Tukue pamoja kama Wakenya. Ya mwisho Penat, nimeingia tu kwa simu, nikisettle nitaingia vizuri ndiye nisikie, naona kuna watu wameingia. But Penat, ukweli isemwe. Ukweli isemwe. Hakuna mtu Penat si Mkenya astahili kama kuna nafasi ya uongozi Kenya na tuko na vijana yetu ama tuko na wasee yetu na tuko na mmoja yetu anaomba kiti, sisi kama Wakenya siasa yetu ile kidogo ya jikoni pena tuwache. Lakini jana tulikuwa tunasema hatuwezi ongea mingi, wacha ifike Monday. Leo tuone mambo vile iko. Tumeona kwa wale wametoka Addis Ababa majority. Nimeona Farah Mohamed, Maalim. Nimeona watu wengi, all members of parliament. Hata nimeona Kikaria kutoka Nakuru. Nimeona MB Amolo. Lakini watu yote, kila mtu Penat amesikia ile uchungu watu walisherekea na kwa internet na kutumia watoto yetu kwenda kuandika mambo. Watu wengine wanaona kama ni furaha Penat, lakini hiyo furaha imeunganisha Kenyans. Leo hivi Ruto amekuwa hero. Nimeona mama moja ameita William 100 times kwa parliament, member of parliament, amesema William baka alijisahau. Kwa sababu Bernard, ukifanya vizuri wacha tuseme ni mzuri, ukifanya mbaya wacha tuseme umetenda mbaya. Lakini hii tabia ya kusema kuna Wakenya nusu kuliko wengine, hii tabia ya kusema Bernard akisimama ako right na mwingine akisimama astahili, hiyo Bernard hapana, hiyo hapana. Na Ruto siasa yake imekuwa rahisi, wamemfanyia siasa yake kukuwa rahisi. Baba ana chambo, anasema ako ready kukuja nyumbani. Wakenya wanasema hawataki kupeleka baba. Kwa nini mnasema Penat baba arudi nyumbani atusaidie? Tungesema baba enda OAU, ukiwa na hiyo kiti ya OAU baba urudi nyumbani utuangalie ukiwa na kiti, ujue hapa nyumbani tunateseka. Hiyo ingekuwa understanding. Lakini kucheka, kusema ati namba yako ni namba 2. Hey Bernard. Lakini
sawa mami.
Tulisema Wamunyoro na wale wote walikuwa na furahi. Leo parliament imeonyesha na tunangoja na bado baba hajafika, but for me I want unity of Kenyans. Na unity of Kenyan Bernard, tusiambie kuna wale wanastahili. Na ukweli kama Uhuru anataka kiti ya UN na anatarajia hata Wakenya watapeana mwisho, kama ni kumalizana sasa, hata yeye asifikiria atapata hiyo kiti. Wenye wanamudanganya sasa, hata watu wamesema tit for that. Wacha tukutane mbele. Thank you Penat.
Okay, sawa mami, nashukuru kwa utangulizi mzuri. Tunaendelea ni kuguzia kisha tutaingia kwa kina. Nashukuru wote ambao mnatujoin kwa comment section. Naona Putin hapo anasema Ruto ni chizi, mbona analeta rapid forces wa Sudan Kenya. Haya, hebu njoo tuatueleze kwa kina mambo haya tukayaelewe vizuri. Cha muhimu hapa, umoja wetu kama Wakenya ni muhimu na tunahitaji umoja wa ukweli. Na kubaliana na mama hapo, tusikuwe na umoja wa kudanganyana na kutumiana. Tukuwe na umoja wa ukweli ambapo tunaona kwamba kuna faida ya Wajaluo, Waluya, wa Kikuyu kufanya kazi kwa pamoja, na ikuwe kwa uwazi na ikuwe kwa ukweli. Hii masuala sisi kuitana pamoja, tukue kwa umoja ili tung'oe mtu fulani, na kisha kama vile baba alikuwa anasema tunafanya nini? Tunaenda kuinda pamoja. Tukishaangusha swara, wewe unataka kubeba unabeba yote, unatuachia mkia ama mguu. Sisi wengine we share the leg, but you have carried the whole of the swara by yourself. Hiyo ni swala nyeti ambalo limeleta utata katika nchi yetu. Kuaminiana imekuwa ni jambo ambalo halipo tena, haswa katika siasa zetu. So kwa hivyo naomba kila mmoja wetu tuangazie suala hili kwa kina. Tuna umoja wa ukweli ama umoja wa uongo? Kuna umoja wa kutumiana ama umoja wa kujumuika ili tujenge nchi ambayo inafaa na nchi ambayo itaweza kulinda na kuhifadhi watoto wetu bila sisi kuwepo. If we don't put those right foundation and right pillars to secure the future of our children and our children's children, we fail as parents. And so we must get to the bottom of what is going on in our country in terms of right unity, because this uniting against the uniting for should not be the case. We need to come together as a nation and forge forward. And that is only possible when we see ourselves as Kenyans and not some Kenyans are more Kenyan than others. Hiyo story ya Animal Farm lazima tuishughulikie ipasavyo. Tumsikilize Mr. Guru tunapoendelea na masuala yetu. Karibu kila mmoja, karibisha mtu. Naulizwa kama kuna poll question. I will be putting it up shortly. Thank you for reminding me. Yes.
Yes. Bernard, how are you?
I'm good. Karibu.
Bernard, what happened in Addis is a big shame for this country. And the reason is that Kenyans themselves approached this matter in a way that has never been done by anybody else since the start of voting for those positions happened. Number two, the very same person you are saying supported Baba is actually sabotaged through his actions. Countries don't go to vote because they love somebody. They go to vote because of interests that they think the person will pursue or will advance. You cannot go and take biased, position in conflict matters and expect that some of the countries will not oppose or go the opposite direction. You are aware that today a group from Sudan has announced that they want to form a rebel government right here in Kenya. That's another problem we have added to ourselves. Why should we show like we support any of the factions? How then are we going to play the role of an arbitrator? How would Raila have succeeded when our country takes a position of being biased in conflict matters? In fact, Baba has served the diplomatic moves that this man has done. And for that, the matters went the way they did. There is nothing we can do about it. But the most strange thing that I found is people trying to control the feelings, how people react. In any contestations, whatever way, there has to be people who react differently. And it is their right. It may be wrong, it may be right, they may be biased, but you cannot, under any circumstance, try to control how people react or feel about things. The most strange thing is that I saw one of the members of parliament talking of Wamunyoro. Wamunyoro is a coded name for ethnic profiling. In fact, I wish you could reproduce the statement that Rigathi himself made before the 14 and after the 14. So this issue of Wamunyoro, I don't know where it came from. However, I know there are those who got excited because they had different expectations about the person who was being voted for. There are those who think perhaps he can help them solve their political issues here. Rightfully or wrongly, that is their feeling, and there is nothing you can do about it. I do not think there's anybody who was happy because they just want to hate Baba. In fact, I dare say that it is fear that the Kenyan people have that he was being taken out of this country so that somebody can run over others without any strong force opposing it. The issues of abductions, the issues of misgovernance, and the rest. And they have come to associate Raila with a very strong voice that can counter the evil that the government does. In fact, we may underrate the way people think, because one of Mama Boga said, Raila, he has his own way of knowing what is happening in government, and therefore he is able to expose the evil that is happening, and therefore deter. So if somebody is happy because the father is coming back to give warmth, and they were feeling like they will be ostracized or even oppressed more, why should you then assign a negative connotation on that? I think we must also expand our thinking when we approach some of these things, because politicians are very funny people. There are those who now want to condense this matter into a ethnic, battle or contestation between these and the other communities, which is not. It's not at all. But for political purposes and going forward for alignments and 2027, politicians are like vultures. They want to create narratives. Unfortunately, right now, the current government has no other narrative except trying to profile communities and pit them against each other. When they go to Mount Kenya, they say there is Mount Kenya East and West. When they go at the national platform, they say there are people, there are communities that they think they are more important than others. Yet, a community does not allocate resources. Resources are allocated elsewhere, so you cannot blame a community, any particular community, for lack of development in your area. It is beyond communities. So we must be very careful here that ethnicity is not used again to pit Kenyans against each other, and then people go to vote emotionally to a level where they don't look at their own interests. Children are not going to the university because there is no money. Getting healthcare is a hell. Shisha is not working. When you go to young mothers, their leader mama is no longer there, and so many other things. Why should then, politicians create an ethnic kind of contestation for purposes of easily winning elections? Right now, even if Raila were to join Ruto and the children are not going to the university because there is no money, there is no health care, roads are not being constructed, how do you benefit as a Kikuyu, as a Luo, as a Luya? And that is why I'm saying here, Bernard, it is very unfair even to our youth who went out in the streets because they want good governance so that they can be able to make their lives better. It's not about communities, it's not about courage, it's not about Kikuyu or Luo or Ruhia. is about individual rights. What you get from the government out of the money you have paid. So this nonsense of, oh, it is these people of Mount Kenya, oh, it is these people of the Rift Valley, it is these people of Nyanza, that is nonsense. Thank you.
So, Wanaburu, glad you have brought that up. But there are also communications, especially from Rick G, that places that matter in question. For example, when Rick G goes to Western Kenya and says he has put his community together, he wants the Luhya people to come together so that they can form whatever a force that will go and form government, and then the resources will be shared in that category. Isn't that ethnic approach and not necessarily democratic multi-party that is constitutional?
Unfortunately, Bernard, that is exactly what UDA did. And in fact, some parties actually wrote even agreements on the percentages they were to get. You know very well that Wetangula and Madividi, they actually negotiated that 1,000 kilometers would be built around Western Kenya, and that they would get that % of the government positions. But those have not been given. Not even those positions, not even the roads are being constructed. So it is all a game to get power and nothing else. And that's the unfortunate thing about Kenya.
So if we get power through ethnic vehicle, how do we now get into power and then make a U-turn and say we are not ethnic anymore, we are now national? And we're not laying the bed wrongly so that we sleep on it wrongly and we continue being wrongly. So if it is wrong to approach the politics through ethnic vehicle, then we should all desist from the same so that everyone is forced to join national political parties and find expression through those national political parties other than identifying with a particular bloc from an ethnic group and then later on say, we want now unity.
Why do you think Weta has refused to fold his party? Do you know there was a demonstration today in Bungoma just merely because there was a rumor that he could lose his position as a speaker? Let me tell you, Bernard, this country has a big problem, and the problem is so deep that the so-called you are calling national parties, it may take many years to grow them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll let that there. We're coming back to the same. Ladies and gentlemen, please ensure you are inviting somebody to the show alone. Ensure that you are an extension of what you're doing right here, right where you are. I want to salute everybody. Thank you, those of you on the comment section. Please, let's mind our language and also ensure that we are, debating on almost on what we are saying, not to introduce anything new that is unnecessary. But what we seek here is a permanent solution to our perpetual problem as a country. And whichever way that solution is realized, to me, if it will solve whatever that bedevils this country, it will be a great achievement. I also want to alert us that we'll have a short conversation with Frank. So I want us to be brief in our introduction so that we have a conversation with him and then let him go to sleep as we continue with the show. He's a student. He needs to be in class in the morning. So naomba tafadhali tukue mindful, don't speak forever, and we have sufficient time for everybody to make their submission. Mr. Njuguna, you were saying your hand was up. What's the matter?
I just wanted to follow on the panelists who have just spoken. I think sometimes we misunderstand some issues. And one thing Just a second. Is somebody making noise, please? Yeah. Sorry about that. Our politics are tribal, and that is the biggest problem we have. I'll be very brief. Our politics are tribal, and the way that's how we are, and it seems like we have a very, very big problem. Try to look national, all of us. Now, coming to that issue, people have commented of Besigye talking about Mount Kenya and then going to Western and saying ABCD. Banner, the way we are today, before you can go and advise somebody else on how they should live, you need first of all to deal with your own family, to deal with your own community. Then you can move to the other community so that you can come together. Then from there you move to the other community and you're joined together as Kenyans and make the right choice. And I think that's what Besigye was trying to do. And I'm not speaking for him, but that's the way I understood it. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Juguda. But I also don't want us to speak ignoring the constitutional provision. I find not very right for Besigye to go and tell the Western people to leave ODM and come together. I mean, ODM is a political party in the country, and we are in a multi-party democracy. So if there is any group that needs to be corrected, it's those who are working in a democratic space without a democratic vehicle, which is political party. But if we're moving from a political party to go and join an ethnic arrangement, then we are going against the constitution altogether. And if we are being urged to follow that particular path, are we not undoing our rights as Kenyans as well as our system of governance?
I don't think so, because we did not give this a chance to go on. He had moved to Western. He was to go to Kambani, and he had to come come with a political party. Whether that party was to appear regional or national, that was another thing. But we should have we decided what we decided before the party came into fruition.
So we'll get back on that, but I don't seem convinced, in the sense that if the message you said in Western is the one is taking to Kambani, then he must be anti-multi-party democracy. He wants us to abandon our political parties and join an ethnic arrangement, and that ethnic arrangement is going to set us against each other, because we'll either I would rather have a Kikuyu party, a Kikuyu political party, than for me to have a Kikuyu ethnic group versus a Luya ethnic group that has no bearing within the framework of our constitution. And so I would that as Kenyans, we must separate these two. We are, of course, we don't have choice about our tribes. We were born the way we were born. We did not choose where we were born. But when it comes to us using that against each other, then we are part of the problem and not providing the solution. But all in all, I want everybody to get a chance before time run out. So let's hear Shadizo kwanza. Vipi mambo haya?
I hope mnanisikia. Hey. I think they can get me properly. Today I'll begin by bringing on board some different perspective a little bit, but what's the issue of the matter of the day? One of the things that I realized with the political analysis in Kenya is that some people feel like political is just one tribe going to another direction, whereby we have break it until we look like we have decided that politics is all about one tribe or another tribe, whereby we forget that the thing that whenever we put the line for the tribalism. Forget that the leader that is leading for the generally Kenyan in general. So when we speak that Baba is being cast on everything the revolution that is being raised up, saying that there's such a places where they have done this or done that, doesn't add up. Me and normal people just the rumors from the people trying to justify things that are not there properly. Because when you see that somebody bring out that perspective out, muuliza tu wazi. So hii unasema, were you there? Was this done? Hakukuwa. So I just create my own thing on my own illusion, bring up on board, make Kenyans to believe, or want people to believe. You write up the script, you draw it as the director of the video, you want Kenyans to dance, what's your movie? Okay, I've not denied. You just bring up the same script where that what I said in me is not what I said in me. That is the way you see that he's putting the infrastructure. Kama pengine mimi nafanya kazi ya kujenga manyumba. Nisichana mali nianze kuongelea kazi ya kujenga vitu zingine mambao. I speak towards the manyumba. So sometimes other people they can feel like some people go tribal. Yes, Jakarta kuna people who go tribal. Feeling like hii ni ya kwetu na huyu sio wa kwetu, and which has been the biggest issue facing the Kenyan politics.
Is it that it is easy to play the tribal card than do genuine multi-party politics?
It is difficult to work the tribal part than to work in genuine party. Because if you work genuinely in a genuine party, it is easier to justify everything, and it is easier to put everything on a clear point.
No, why is it that every time we have an election, people drift towards tribalism? As in mtu wetu, okay? Na huyu mtu wetu like tuliambiwa 2022, hata kama ni mwizi ni wetu, okay? Na sisi tutapigia kura mwizi wetu. You get that? Meaning, as long as anatoka kwetu, haijalishi amesoma, ana uwezo, anaweza ama hawezi. We don't consider any other thing. We only consider mtu wetu. And in the process, we end up giving leadership to wrong people. So is it that going the tribal way is easy to do politics? Or is it that we want to kill political parties so that we remain non-political? I don't know, non-political party, wherever nation.
I think if we say that we kill non-political party, chama ni moja.
Exactly.
And if we come back to chama ni moja, how will we run the government? With the government supposed to have the opposite side. And tukisema, okay, as Jakarta, we normally go that way. Most of the time, unapotanga watu wanasema kwamba Kenya ni yetu, ama huyu ni wetu. The way we can bring it out, that hii ni yetu, huyu ni mtu wetu. For example, mtu anasema like huyu ni anatoka kwetu. Now, in the time from where I come from, they're surprised that say that shenyu ni shenyu, halishenyu huko. Ya kwenyu, hata inuke. Doesn't matter that you're going, but right now it's high time that we need to wake up. Like it's having a waking up call. Imekuwa ikitokea most of the time, whereby to hii kitu ya kwetu ni kwetu, it will be landing us with the problem. If somebody still have the energy to say that kwamba hii ya kwetu ni ya kwetu, that person needs prayers. Even if they are beaten, because if the same thing as long as towards in the beach, then you still compromise towards that. Sure, are we moving Kenya ahead or are we?
Well, that is something we need to consider. Thank you very much for your input. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep inviting each other. Namba ya watazamaji endelee kupanda tafadhali. Facebook naona watu wawili tu. Naomba watu wa Facebook mchanjaruke. Jikakamue. Karibisha watu. TikTok sijui kunaendaje huko. Naomba tafadhali keep the screen busy. Make sure that you are liking as well as sharing the video widely. Tunapoendelea hivyo, ningependa quickly nimlete Razvik alafu Mzee Lala, kisha tuongee na Frank, then tumrelease. Razvik, kazi kwako.
Vipi Bernard na kila mtu kwa studio na comment section.
Tuko poa, karibu.
Yeah, kwanza nilikuwa nataka kukondem hiyo abduction ya Besigye huko Uganda. You know, in this age and time, treating our political opponents in that way is so primitive of Museveni and also our President Ruto for, you know, encouraging those kind of behaviors. I think both of them just need to be beheaded, you know, for encouraging those kind of behaviors in this age and time. You know, I strongly condemn those kind of behaviors. And secondly, I want to disagree with Guru that, you know, Raila was humiliated in the AU election. That election was too close. Actually, Raila won the first 2 rounds. And the 6th round, I think the vote difference was like 4 votes. And Raila stepped down because going into the 7th round, if it was still going to be that close, they were going to defer that election to another time because the chairman had to win 2/3 of the votes, which he didn't have it by 6th round. So first of all, just putting your name or your name to vie for that position, it's a bold move for anybody to do. You know, I am so proud of Amina. You know, when Uhuru proposed her and she decided to vie for that position, it's not an easy position to vie for. And also even Raila himself to take up and say, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. If you travel widely, you'll find that Africa itself is not united. You know, there is a lot of division, just like Kenya, tuko na ukabila. Even in the rest of Africa, it's not united. Those North African countries, if you meet Egyptians, Libyans, and Algerians, most of them, they look at you like you're African, and I don't know if they think they are Wazungu or not. And also, it's Kenya that we don't have that big difference in terms of religion. Utapata Wakenya wengi Waislamu na Wakristo na Wahindi, you know, hatuna hiyo division in terms of religion, but when you travel, you'll find there's a big division in terms of religion and also the languages we speak. Kama, for example, Cameroon. I have so many friends from Cameroon, and some of them are from the French-speaking side, and some of them are from the English-speaking side. Na utapata saa zingine you're friends with both sides, but sometimes you meet somewhere, unaona mwingine anakwambia this one is from the English side, ama this one is from the French side. Na chuki yao is like big, you know, chuki yao ni mbaya sana. So those are some of the factors that also led to, you know, maybe Raila not getting that seat. And Raila himself, I think he's moved past that election. If you look at when he was giving his speech, Kenya Kwanza actually looked sad than him. I was watching those clips and, you know, Baba has accepted the result and he's moved on. But he's still giving most of us like sleepless nights. And because nobody knows his next step. Whichever step that he decides, you know, good for him, and I hope it will be beneficial for the nation. One thing that I just want to, you know, to tell many Kenyans, we are where we are because of the hate that we threw towards this old man. You know, when he was a candidate, there was a lot of hate towards him. You know, when Uhuru presented him as a candidate, so many people threw stones at him and threw stones at Uhuru, and they disagreed. So eventually he accepted and moved on. You know, before he accepted and moved on, he had mandamano like every week. And some folks were complaining that biashara zao zinaumia. So eventually, hey, Baba looked at it, biashara zenu zinaumia, let this biashara prosper. old man has to put food on his table. So he joined that government to also find something for his family. But apparently, those who didn't even vote for him are like the biggest haters. When you put this too much hate against this Mzee, what it does to his fan base, most of his fan base were not actually haven't even supported this broad-based government. It was kind of like a shock to see that Baba is working with Uhuru. But if we keep throwing too much hate against this thing, we are losing focus on how we
My
can
brother, is it Uhuru or Ruto? You are saying
Ruto.
Yeah,
I'm talking
thank you.
about Ruto.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you have been
ma'am.
saying Uhuru, and then we were wondering who are you talking about? Thank you.
No. I was saying Uhuru presented Baba as his candidate, and they threw stones at Uhuru at that time. That's what I meant. Uhuru's community threw stones at Uhuru because they preferred a candidate who was not Baba. So eventually Baba joined Ruto's government, and they've been working together, which is not a popular thing, even from Baba's supporters, So, in this movement of putting Ruto out, we want to make it seem like it's a Kenyan movement. And we also want to convince these Baba supporters that, we want Ruto's out, and putting Ruto out, it's not something tribal. Let's all join hands together. There are some ODM strongholds that you'll find they normally end up electing independents. And if you look at the independents that they elect in those strongholds, they are independents that did not get ODM ticket, but they are popular on the ground. And when they're popular on the ground, when they're campaigning, what they do, they tell the voters what they are going to do to their people. And some of them you'll find they've been doing good things to their people. But you'll find in those strongholds, you can be building schools and you can be doing good things. But if you fight Baba in those strongholds, I assure you 100% you are going to lose big. So if we want to convince Baba supporters to join us into this movement of making Ruto a one-term president, let's kind of take a break and just leave Baba alone and have a strong movement on strategies on how we can make Ruto a one-man president. And it's going to work. Yesterday, actually, I was watching the show from behind the scene, and I saw Mama Selena took her gloves off. I don't blame her for that, because I've been on different platforms, and this tribal thing has been heated so much. Some folks are pretending like their gloves are on, but they have already taken their gloves off. So, Mama Selena, I know you are receiving so many jabs from left and right, but in reality, that's where, unfortunately, Kenya will head to if we are not careful. We need to. Mandago anasema weka politics kwa lungs, Don't take it too personal, because it can even make you kill your wife for no good reason. It's not that serious. Let's be sober. Let's agree to disagree in a good way, so that we convince each other that, hey, this is the way forward that we want. Over to you, Bernard.
Okay, thank you, Rasvik. We appreciate that. Indeed, that sobriety is needed at every step, and I would also urge us, as there is when one is a leader and when one is a follower. When you're a leader, much is expected from you, and so I would want us to control ourselves to the degree we can, and ensure that we are leading the country, not just scoring points. And I don't see how much we gain by propagating hate. Okay, there is this glorification of hate and glorification of despising people. I don't see the end of it. I've been trying so hard to see how far that can help us as a country and help us as a people. I can't figure it out. And I don't think I'm that dumb. I really want us, especially as a platform, to help make sense of politics and help people make informed decisions, not just stir up hatred and you want to malign somebody simply because you don't agree with him. And I have this everywhere, not just on the platform. There are people who even inbox me, and their inbox is the same story we dealt with long time ago, and we settled that story once and for all. As much as we would want Raila Odinga to do what we want him to do, he's still a man of himself. He will still have to make decisions by himself. We can want to make sure that Raila Odinga does not work with William Ruto. That is what we want. That's what we prefer. But he still has a right to decide what to do. So we cannot decide for him and force him, especially when we have not hired him. That's where I have the point of departure. If he is working in an office, he has sworn he's in a public office, then we can hold him to account. Lakini hatujamwajiri, tulimnyima kazi, ako raia, alafu tunamlazimisha asitembee na fulani, asalamie na fulani, asifanye hivi. I think we are over-expectant, over-ambitious when we think that we can make that happen. All in all, I would also, as mature people, let's lead the younger people in the right direction in appreciating the fact that you can fight and run, then fight again. You don't have to finish your fight in the first sprint. That a cause is worth fighting for is a cause you fight until your last day. You don't fight once and you want to finish everything. If everybody went out to do that, we would all be gone. So let us understand that there's a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. The house of David grows stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul grows weaker and weaker. But the war is a long one. We must get into this with that understanding. All in all, Reverend Lala, as Reverend Lala prepares to come in and make his submission, we'll be switching gears as we listen to Frank shortly, and then thereafter we'll be able to release him. But in the meantime, karibisha to 75 people. Can we get to 100 plus? And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. We are remaining with 3 people to hit 6K subscribers. Can we get those 3 people in this show, please? Please make sure that that happens. And of course, it is our solemn duty to make sure that that happens. And thereafter, we'll be giving other official communication. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we take a short break. And when we are back, we'll be listening to Reverend Lala.
Are you looking for video live streaming services? You want your church services to be on air? You do not know where to market your goods and services? At Sound Candid Talk, we deliver the best live stream services for your events, product and service launches, conferences, weddings, and marriages. Reach on us today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you're watching. Thank you so much for being part and parcel of the great conversation on Sound Candid Talk. Moja kwa moja nimlete Reverend Lala naye achangie kwa kifupi tunapoanza masuala haya na kuendelea kwa pamoja. Reverend Lala, over to you.
Asante Bernard, asante Mama Selina, nimekuona hapo. Asante ndugu Guru, asante Njuguna, Joroge or Njuguna, I don't see. Ras and Shadizo, I think I saw you there. Na wenzangu wote ambao mko nasi leo. Kwanza mjambo. Hata mimi nikipenda ku just contribute a little bit, but let me take it from a more global perspective. Right now, this month is what we call Black History Month in the US. And when we celebrate some of these days, we at times focus on certain individuals that contributed to our freedom more than most of us. And one of those people is a lady by the name of Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was functionally illiterate. You don't step inside of a school because they weren't allowed to go to school. She had epilepsy, okay? But when she died, she was born in 1822, but when she died in 1913, she had rescued more than 300 slaves. She would make trips to the south and bring them and snatch them and steal them and bring them to freedom in the north. And so she was accredited to saving so many people. And so we have a museum in her memory. And she died in 1913. You know, when she died, it was as if hope was gone. The slaves, the black people, the leader was gone. And in that despair, the same year she died, Rosa Parks was born. Rosa Parks is credited to even part of the reason why we are here. Some of us are here. Blacks could not vote. They were behind somewhere. This is the woman who began the revolution that is able to bring us to where we are today. And so in that year, she was born. So in the darkest hour, hope is always born. God has never forgotten his people. There's always something happening. And then in 1929, what we call the Great Depression just settled. It was very hard for black race. Okay, they were the first to be fired. A lot of lynching, violence against them because everybody was going through this Great Depression, and that began in 1929. Okay, and the same year is the year that Martin Luther King was born. In other words, the darkest hour in human history, God will always raise a voice for himself. And so let us be people that have hope. Hope that God is on the throne and God will work through men and women and events and seasons to bring his own truth. Now, let's look at the agony of Besigye. It is horrifying seeing the image of a man who has contributed so much to the region. And I think this where tribe is a problem for most of us because we think very tribal. When actually, when you think about it, the freedom of Besigye is your freedom. Congo's peace is our peace and development. We are so much interconnected, but we have taken this small with little head and focus on our little tribe. Okay. The other thing where I fault our leaders, especially Ruto and others too, is that when we have a government, a cabinet is a group of men and women who are knowledgeable. But the first assignment of a cabinet secretary is communication. A person who can do a PR. And this is why most of us didn't understand why people like Rigiji could be put up there, because you know, Rigiji may be saying things that some of us sometimes think about, but you see, in my mind, I think it's a wrong leader, a wrong person. So lying behind him is really horrible, okay? And then we have Ruto, who is supposed to be educated, but if you look at his profile since he became a president, what he has done, the missteps that he has made, it was the point where it is so hard to sell a country the image, because already things have been made to stink so badly that when you bring Baba, already it would have been a miracle. Remember from day one, what did Ruto do? He went against the collective understanding of those leaders, the African leaders, and criticized them for parading themselves. And then he goes behind their back and do his own deals against that collective understanding that comes from that group of African leaders. Okay, so already he had planted a bad seed. And now look at the Palestinian issue. Palestinians are struggling people. People could identify with them. And when it comes to communication, there are things, even when you believe them or whatever, don't say it. Don't do it. Find a better method to be able to understand both sides of the equation. But to come out front, siding with one side, when actually we two-state solution was our stand all along, and then do things like that. Already, the Baba was stepping into a very toxic, very smelly environment, foreign policy. So and you can go on and on and on and on and on, like the Congo DRC. So when people even talk about Baba's failed, I agree with Ras Vic, he has failed, but also agree with Guru too, because that man was no match to Baba. So even to be close enough, with the Baba is, to me, is shameful, because Baba was a package that was what Africa needed. But because of the toxicity that has been put in there by this regime, there's no way, any clear thinking person, could abandon, their own clear lead that they know is going in the wrong direction, and then follow this other one. So to me, I think Ruto already had messed up completely. Okay, so I think now where we are at this point, it is important for us to be able to come together. But togetherness also, I agree with Guru, that there's so much that is we are sitting on. It's almost like telling a couple, kapa moja, yet there are other things that have been going on in the background. Okay, so there are things that need to be sought out. Okay, what damage as ethnic, all this tribal thinking has done to us? Okay, are there things that we can talk about? For example, we had election, the last election, the coming one. It's the power that we had then that we gave the leaders that they're still exercising, if at all we did. So we are still under that 4-5 year, whatever, time calendar. And the question is, if there's illegalities, if there are sins, if there are bad things, what do we do with them? And this is where the legal side really is important, because this is where we are stuck, because people tend to retreat to the past, because this is what I think it seems to be going on. People want to move forward, but then they go back and say, these people have done A, B, C, D. So we are all get into this space where we don't know how to get out. So there has to be some genuineness that we must exercise here. We must bring out here and let others know that this is where we are as Kenya. This is what we must do as Kenyans. Yes, we have hurt you. These people have been hurt, and we are sorry for the hurt. So let's just move forward. They're almost like having a conversation that is honest, which I think Ruto and Baba and Uhuru began, but you see, we have abandoned it. Okay, they began. We came up to us going to have whatever that passed. You know, but then Ruto came and interrupted. But then now we are not talking. We are back to these two camps that may talk about unity, but I don't see any unity there. So let us pray. Let us ask God to help us. He's able to bring light when things are dark. And let us follow the true north, because truth will set us free. We got to punish that which is wrong. And finally, again, our emphasis here, the job of a secretary is communication. Poor communication is part of this system, and it doesn't take us take us far. It just creates what I think Bernard was talking about here. You know, one person going to another place saying, you know, come out of this party here and there. But then those are the surface issues. The underneath feelings are still there. Okay, so let us be genuine. Let us talk and discuss our issues as Kenyans. And now that I'm hearing voice that we are coming together, what does it mean to be together? Are we going to be talking about the truth, or are we going to lie to each other? And there are people who are dealers. All they want is to keep their position and their power and their corruption. Okay, so there's a lot to be done here. Okay, back to you. I can go on and on. Bernard, back to you.
Thank you, Lala. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're glad you're watching. Please make sure you're inviting somebody and liking the video. Subscribe if you have not subscribed. You miss a lot when you accidentally and always want to get the show accidentally. When you're a subscriber and you have turned on the notification, you won't miss out on any of our other programs apart from this one. Now, before I begin my conversation with Frank here, there is this caption been sent. It has been posted by Governor Kipps, wherever. But it's funny. It's funny. Okay, it's a claim that the son of Yoweri Museveni has claimed or has said. So it's an allegation, but I find it very, very disturbing. So I want to read it out, and then of course we'll look at it even as we look at the Kizza Besigye case. President Museveni's son Muhoozi Kainerugaba has issued a stunning warning to Uganda's Supreme Court, demanding a written apology for a judgment made against the country's defense forces, UPDF, and the nation. Ugandans are beginning to understand that in this country, there is only one power, Field Marshal Yoweri Museveni. We will protect him and obey him to the end. People in red gowns and funny wigs can never scare us. I want a written apology from the Supreme Court for the judgment they made against UPDF and Uganda. If not, if I don't get that apology quickly, other things will follow. Muhoozi, Chief of Uganda People's Defense Forces. Now, that happens to be what the son of Yoweri Museveni thinks and says about the Supreme Court. Now, I wonder whether Uganda is a military state or we have wherever a civilian government, and the civilian government is led for, it is for the people, by the people. What does this mean? And look at his demeanor and his attitude towards the Supreme Court and the ruling, the Supreme Court judges and all that. Is this a pointer that the future of Uganda doesn't look any good if this is the heir that is heir apparent of the throne in Uganda? I would love to hear what's your take on the same. Maybe Mama Selina in 1 minute or so, please.
Yes, Penat, you remember hata wakati alikuwa amesema it will be in Kenya in was it 2 hours to capture Kenya. Muhosi is so proud because there is no democracy in Uganda. Museveni amerule, this is the 40th year. Na unajua Uganda ilikuwa supposed kwenda every 5 years. So there is no freedom in Uganda, and that is why kuna hiyo throne, kuna hiyo watu wanakuwa wana capture, wanaua. Na yeye afichi, but they have been conned, wako mwisho. Kesi kadhaa siko ICC. And now is trying to give out a threat, and the youth for Uganda, I don't know, they call them foot soldiers, the way Kenya you call TNC. People are saying, Bernard, in Uganda, hata ukinyamaza, hata ukue kwa nyumba, they will get you. That is what is going on. Thank you, Bernard. Yo.
Okay, asante sana, Mami. We appreciate that. Ellie, I'll just say hi to you. How are you? Just to confirm your microphone is working.
I'm stepping out, but I will come back. I hope I will get to it, but nitasikiza tu kwa simu.
No problem. You'll find us. Thank you. We still have got like 2 hours to go. Ellie, are you still there? Okay, it seems...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, but I've seen that you have Frank there, and maybe...
Yeah, just
Frank's
hold on.
issues.
We'll come back to you shortly after we
Yes.
finish the conversation with Frank.
Yes,
Dr.
okay.
Frank.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah. What is good about you today?
Yoni.
Frank, tuambie story, unaendeleaje?
Salama.
Masomo?
Somo pia inaendelea tuna mimi vizuri.
Inasumbua wapi?
Nisumbue.
Masomo ikusumbui?
Nisumbue.
So inamaanisha utapata tu tukienda kwa hiyo mtihani.
Ni ya wasomi.
Wewe ni nini? Wewe si mwanafunzi?
Mimi ni mwanafunzi lakini mimi si msomi.
Wazazi mnasikia? Kuna watoto mnatuma shule, wengine ni wasomi, wengine si wasomi. Wengine wanafunzi, wengine wasomi. Tupatie tofauti ya wasomi na wanafunzi.
Msomi ni ule mwenye anaenda shule na anapata AA. Mimi si msomi. Mimi sijaipata. Mimi ni mwanafunzi tu.
Wazazi mtatusaidia hapa. Mimi sababu ya wewe kwenda shule na kuwa mwanafunzi ni kwa sababu uboreke, uendelee vizuri. So utoke kama ulikuwa B, ulikuwa D, uende C. Ukitoka C unaenda B, ukitoka B unaenda A. Hakuna mtu ameandikiwa A na mwingine ameandikiwa D. So utaki kuendelea, unataka kukwama hapo hapo, wewe ni mwanakanu.
Sema mimi bado niko D, ndo nadai niende nifike C.
Sawa basi. Basi maisha namna gani?
Maisha kupambana tunayo.
Ujumbe wako kwa wasikilizaji. Unataka wasikilizaji wasikie nini kuhusu, unaona hizi umekuwa wiki ngapi? Hii wiki ya 3. Yes, unaona mabadiliko ama story ni ile ile?
Mabadiliko unaona juu sahii kuna skills zingine nimeingiza, yani nimeanza kujua kama computer. Nimesoma lakini nishaanza kujua lakini si sana. Lakini bado nataka yani niendelee tu
Utaendelea na masomo mpaka mwisho?
Mpaka mwisho, hadi ile siku nitaelewa, hadi nione nimejua.
Kitu gani ambacho kinasumbua ukiwa class? Ni walimu unawaelewa vizuri ama wakuchanganya?
Kuelewa na waelewa.
Usipoelewa hakuna kitu kinakutatanisha na hiyo kizungu mingi?
Unajua kizungu pia lazima kuna kitu kinatatanisha hapo. Kizungu pia mimi Kizungu sijasomea, yani sielewi Kizungu pia vile.
Si hiyo ndio sababu ya kwenda shule kusoma Kizungu? Ama tukufungulie klasi ya Kizungu?
Itakuwa noma aje?
Lazima, kwa sababu Kizungu ndio lugha ya kitaifa na kimataifa.
Na Kiswahili ndio lugha ya taifa.
Excuse me, mmesema lugha ya taifa ni Sheng.
Tena lugha ya taifa ni Sheng.
Siko meimba.
Hii ndio imewanyang'anya kutoelewa Kizungu wala Kiswahili, kwa sababu mna utohozi wa lugha, mnaharibu mambo. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Frank, our son here, who is now in class and working towards gaining skills in computer understanding. And then, of course, from there, he will be signing in for his Form 4 exam, which we need to sponsor him to do that, as well as startup. So we have a program here that is geared towards his support, and we bring him on the show just to confirm he's in here, he is in class, and for him to continue with the studies, we need to continue supporting him. So when we reach out to you for support, please respond. And that, you know, that taking on Frank's responsibility is an extra responsibility other than from what we've been doing in supporting the channel. So we will need to pull up the socks, support the channel as well as support Frank. Frank, ujatuambia shosho anaendelea?
Shosho kwa salama. Pia ni kung'ang'ana tu venye nimesema, maisha tunaendelea tu kupush.
Okay, tangu ahame biashara vipi?
Biashara ni kama kawaida wenye tu walikuwa wanaendeleza.
Kama kawaida namna gani? Kuna improvement?
Improvement aje?
As in maendeleo. Unajua huwezi kuwa tu na kila siku unalisha watu 15, si wanafika saa nyingine 30.
Sasa bado sijaona watu wakiongezeka.
So challenge iko wapi? Challenge iko wapi? Kizungumkuti kiko wapi katika tuseme business ya shosho?
Ni challenge yenyewe iko ni mahoteli ni nyingi. Ndio maana saa customer pia wezi mlazimisha ingie kwa hoteli yani yenye hataki.
So tuseme kuna vile mnaandaa chakula, wanaokuja kula chakula wanakosekana, chakula kinaharibika, ama amuuzi vile mlikuwa mnauza? Ni kipi changamoto hapa?
Chakula iko sawa. Tunauza tu venye tuponga tunauza.
Lakini mngependa kuuza sana zaidi. Sawa basi. So tukimalizia hii ni mahojiano yetu moja kwa moja na Frank, alafu tutamrelease, lakini cha muhimu hapa, naomba tafadhali tukue mstari wa mbele kusupport Frank kwa vyovyote vile, na kuna njia mbili ya wewe kumsupport. Kuna online where you send your contribution through PayPal, that you give option. Ukisha peana mchango wako ikwe $20, $100, whichever amount you want to give, you state unataka hii ikwe ya upkeep ya Frank, iwe ya masomo ya Frank, ama iwe ya nini, ya business, because tunataka after he has cleared, he has gained the skill, tutafungulia yeye biashara ambayo atachagua, ambayo inafaa kulingana na strength yake. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tafadhali tumia hizi details, tuma mchango wako, either you use the M-Pesa till number, the usual one, 516575, or the M-Pesa line +254718454585. That is Bernard, my name. Or you use the PayPal link. So I'm sharing the link in the comment section. Please, let's have some responses so that we are able to flow without, I don't want Frank to miss on any of his classes or get concerned about, any other thing other than concentrating on developing. Remember, we have given ourselves to take care of him for 12 months. So after 12 months, he should be able to be on his own feet. And for that to happen, lazima tuhakikishe kwamba ako shule anasoma. Then in the next 2 months or so, we'll begin to organize for him the national exam that he will do to get the 4th form certificate. Hiyo pia he will need seamless studies for the next 6 months or so to be ready. So ni kazi mingi ya kufanywa kwa kitu kimoja. Kwa hivyo tunakuomba tafadhali kuwa mstari wa mbele kutekeleza wajibu wako. Asante sana. So Bwana Frank, na fungua floor kama uko na swali ama uko na himizo kwa Frank, please take the floor. Anybody wants to talk to Frank before we release him?
Frank, how are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm well, Frank. Zuri kuona bwana. You know, I think a week sija kuona. That's good. How is the studies?
Poa, yani kupambana tunayo.
Kupambana. Tuendelea tu. Wakati mwingine inakuwa ngumu, wakati mwingine is much better, but keep going. Where you've been has been the hardest, okay? You've been through the fire. And those thoughts, I'm sure they keep coming. But you know what? You're a survivor, okay? A survivor. Ni kama mtu when your house is on fire, you are a victim. Unalia, nyumba yangu kwa moto inaungusha vitu vyangu, unalia, unaleta fire department. Na wakati mwingine fire department nakuja, wanajaribu lakini wanashindwa, wanasema hiyo imepotea. Na sasa wewe uko nalia, you keep quiet, unasema pengine wacha nitafute pale pa kulala. At that moment you transition, sasa wewe si survivor tena, wewe si a victim tena, now you are a survivor. A survivor is one who has been through it, you've experienced it, umesikia all the pain, but now God has given you a chance. Naona, you are a survivor, you've survived it, okay? So those thoughts, when they come to you, just remind yourself you're a survivor, you survived it. So now where you are, we are trying to support you towards being a thriver. In other words, using that experience we went through to make your life better. Because what God has for you, you are a leader. You understand? He gave you this life to become a leader. Think of yourself as possibly the next leader of the country. That's the dream you should have. Because what you've been through, now you can teach us what it is we should avoid and we should do. So take the work seriously. We are here to support you, and plus others have gone through what you've gone through. That's all I wanted to say. We are proud of you. Keep going. We are here to support you 100%. Thank you. Back to you, Bernard.
Okay, thank you. Any other person who has a word for Frank? Rasvi Njuguna?
Oh, yeah. So, Frank, to be honest, you're like an inspiration to many of us, you know, seeing the number of bullets that went on your body, and God has helped you to be this strong. That's a miracle, you know. We are so proud of you for what you've gone through in the fight of our country's liberation. We don't take it for granted, and you know, we'll definitely support in whichever way we can. I'm going to share some resources. They're free resources with some good basic computer skills that Bernard will forward to you, that if you go through within a very short time, you'll be a computer guru in a short time. So Bernard, nakutumia hizo vitu alafu utashare na Frank.
So thank you very much. That's a good one. Awesome here says, in my opinion, I think Frank needs help apart from giving him a skill. He needs something like a business. I think transportation is a greater employer for the youth in the country, is a business which that is right, and that is the end of all this. The skill is meant to prepare him for business. The reason we are ensuring that he gets required skills and gets through with his education is so that he'll be able to run business. Remember, he's not able to do manual jobs anymore because of the injuries, but we believe that with everyone's help here, by God's grace, we'll be able to put Frank on his 2 feet and able to take care of himself. Nani anasema anakuzuia kujiexpress bwana Frank, anaitwa nani? GPR GPRA. Uko na ujumbe unataka kutuambia ambao kujaambia mtu mwingine yoyote?
Sipo ready bado kuongea.
Hauko ready bado kuongea? Just talk. Nobody is shooting you. Kuna mtu hapa kona bunduki?
Sina la kusema sahi.
Like kusema sahi.
He doesn't have to say anything now for the time being.
Yeah, he doesn't. Okay, but Frank is a cool guy. He doesn't talk much. If you expect so much, you may know. He talks, yes, but not everywhere and not every time. Leo tumeenda kuzurura town pamoja. And we talked very little. Traveling all the way to town and back. So he's a cool gentleman, and I'm happy about his spirit and his focus on his studies and self-development. To me, that is an added advantage, and would want to fund that so that he is able to do what he's required to do. So ningependa kushukuru wote na kumshukuru Frank hapa na kumuhimiza, lazima umalize masomo yako na lazima ujisimamie, na katika hiyo hali itabidi kujisatiti. Does that make sense? Kujisatiti ama hiyo ni kizungu pia?
Just bring it down kujituma.
We bring down kujituma. Kujituma. Kujisatiti ni kujituma. So I think we should say bye to Frank, and please let's respond.
Ujiandikishe, haja feel ile pale nilikwambia ufeel hapo, okay? Kwa hiyo link.
Yeah. The link. Okay, I will share it with him alafu atajaza. Sawa. Ni ile ya general?
No, kuna the specific one. Okay,
I'll
send
it in the private chat.
Send it again. Yeah.
No, send it again because he naona on Facebook.
Yeah, hold on. I'm sending it again right now.
No problem. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Frank. Enda kajiandae kwa masomo.
Sawa.
Tuonane tutakapoonana. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a short break. You're coming back.
Welcome to Sound Candid Talk News Special Edition. Be sure to subscribe, share the video widely, and give it a thumbs up. God bless you. This is the story of Frank Okoth, a 19-year-old Kenyan whose life is nothing short of a miracle and an inspiration. A young man who, against all odds, survived 6 gunshots during the tragic June 26, 2024, Gen Z protests in Nairobi. Frank is an orphan, raised by his aging maternal grandmother after losing his mother at the tender age of 8. He never knew his father, a result of a teenage pregnancy, and life has dealt him blow after blow. Frank and his grandmother have faced unspeakable challenges, including surviving 2 devastating slum fires that claimed everything they owned: his late mother's documents, birth certificates, and school papers, leaving them with nothing to rebuild their lives.
Na sina hata shilingi moja. Niko na kitabu saa hii na nimeshaanga shilingi 100. Kitabu iko hapa natembea naye.
Forced to drop out of school in Form 2 due to a lack of fees, Frank started doing manual jobs to provide for his grandmother. But on June 26, 2024, everything changed. During the protests, Frank joined other Kenyan youth to exercise their democratic rights, peacefully demonstrating against unemployment, rising living costs, and rampant corruption. But the unthinkable happened. Police opened fire on unarmed demonstrators, killing over 20, injuring many, and leaving others unaccounted for. Frank was among the victims, hit by 6 bullets, yet by God's grace, he survived. After a series of life-saving surgeries, Frank can now walk again. But the bullets left a lasting impact. He can no longer perform heavy-duty jobs to support his grandmother. And their iron sheet home, deep in the slum, is inaccessible by vehicles. In case of a medical emergency, help is far out of reach. To make matters worse, the slum is plagued by insecurity, with daily cases of muggings and robberies. Despite all these challenges, Frank dreams of finishing his education, learning a trade, and building a better life for his grandmother, the woman who has stood by him through every storm. This is where we need your help. In the short term, we aim to move Frank and his grandmother to a safer home where they can access medical care and live without constant fear. Long term, we want to support Frank in completing his education, learning a profitable skill, and starting a small business. I've faced so much, but I'm still standing. I want to work hard, take care of my grandmother, and make her proud. I just need a chance. You can be the change in Frank's life. Every contribution, big or small, will go a long way in helping this brave young man and his grandmother rebuild their lives. Let's come together and help Frank fulfill his God-given destiny. God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video widely, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories on Sound Candid Talk. Send your donations to Sound Candid Talk Support Frank Okoth account. The link is in the description below. Together, we can make a difference.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sticking by. Ni kama tumepoteza Eli na yeye ndio alikuwa anaenda next. So tutarejea kwa Juguna.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, about Dr. Kizza Besigye, that man has suffered immensely. And he has suffered so much because of standing up again at Museveni. We cannot say there is civilian rule in Uganda. It is a military government which camouflages as a civilian government. And that's what it is. And I think what Museveni has been trying to do over the years by troubling this man, who now looks very, very frail and very sick, is to scare any other person in Uganda who want to come against his rule. And that is precisely what it is, that people should not stand up for what is right, and they should be contented with what Museveni is doing. And that is the bottom line. What was scaring on our side in Kenya is when Ruto took over, he made several visits to Uganda. And I don't know whether he wanted to become a student of Museveni or now to rule to do the same in Kenya. But you can say this was most likely the thing that had happened, because we can see the abductions and the killing of Gen Zs. That was meant to instill fear in people so that you don't rise up. But Kenya, we are so brave and we stand for everything despite all the odds. And I hope at some point, this man will come out of, I understand he has been taken to the hospital. But what can happen? He has been taken to the hospital in Uganda. Anything can happen. So we remember the opposition leader in Russia, Navalny. He just went through what Besigye went through, is going through, and finally had to be succumbed, and nothing happened. But I hope we hope for the best. Now, about I've seen this is Abdullahi, this former lawyer, the one who used to do the Roman 3. In fact, if you look at why is Raila Odinga being broke everywhere, you can see that is like there's a lot of sarcasm, and there is what I would call as mockery, because nobody has broke Raila from doing anything. Raila is a free man. He went to the OAU. He stood for the OAU seat. It went how it went, and there has to be a winner and a loser. So it's not that he has been broke. There is no winner where he has been broke. And probably he should tell us what he meant by that statement. But me, I took it as a mockery. And let me say, we seem to be reading it too much when we say that there are some people who are celebrating when Raila failed. I think we need to look a bit far. Because when people are celebrating, now we are blaming the people, that old lady or that village person there in the corner of Kenya, being happy because Raila didn't. It's not happy because Raila failed to clinch the AU seat. He's happy because he come to fight for them, just he has already fight for them before. So it was not because of his failure that they were celebrating. They were celebrating because these people are now downtrodden. The hospital is in shambles. That is the education. There's mounting corruption. We have had some one CA sleeps on he has got so many watches, so many belts, and he brags on a national TV. And there's somebody who doesn't know where the next meal is coming from. Yeah. So this is the kind of things why Kenyan were crying for him to come back and help them. And you remember, Bernard, when I was talking the other day, I can't remember whether it was the day or the day before yesterday. I gave an example with Jonah and Nineveh. Yeah. Because to Kenyans, Raila is like Jonah, who was sent to come and save them. Because since he's joined Ruto, on the other side, being an OAU candidate, things has been getting bad and worse. There have been abductions. But though Raila was forced by circumstances because of he had to speak. But he could not do so much because the other side, he wanted the OAU seat. So let's not bring the people who are rejoicing in Kenya. They were not rejoicing because of his failure. He wanted him to fail. It's because they felt vulnerable without him. Because that is the only person whom they can cry for. We don't want to be another Uganda where nobody can speak. And when you speak, you are put in jail, and if you're taken even to a court of law, which releases you, the government continue holding you. So let us not read too much into those people who are celebrating. And I hope Raila should not join Ruto, because I think he will look like an opportunist, to be honest. He may end up looking as an opportunist because all along we knew he as a fighter. He had been fighting for the common man. But him joining hands with Ruto, that is a very serious thing to do, because it's like you have been saved. You have been a man of God for 99 years and 11 months, and on the 12th month of your 100 years, you become a sinner. All the 99 years are gone. And I hope that's where he's going. He should he should start with the Kenyans and fight for them. We make sure this government is a one short-term government, because Kenyans, we are ready to do anything to elect somebody else who can save that country. And whoever is going to take over from Ruto, I can tell you for sure, Kenyans will be having very high expectations, such that if that person, whoever it is, may appear like he's delivering. It's not that he is not be delivering, it's because the amount of problems, the stealing, the corruption, and the down economy, and the health system that he had to grapple with. Now, I'll stop there for now, Bernard.
Okay, sawa, asante sana Bwana Njuguna. Lakini katika hiyo hali ya wewe kusema nini, the celebrations we were not meant for the Raila's downfall. There are videos to the same effect. Some of them are a mockery, others are, for example, there is this emerged propaganda that went on during Moi's time. It has resurfaced from the archives, where they claim Raila cannot be president because his father cast him. And that is being perpetuated, being explained. Some of it is being explained by preachers. And on the video, then they are claiming this the blood of the Gen Z that went to fight Raila at Addis Ababa to bring him back. Those kind of grievous explanations cannot fit into what you are explaining, that these people are happy that Raila is back to fight for them. Secondly, Raila offered himself to be a president. They didn't make him president. Is it that Raila is only good for fighting for them, defending them, but not leading them? If you are Raila, would you continue doing that?
That's not what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah. I wish he was the president today. I wish he was the president today, because where we are is not where I would be. And I think that Kenya would be the best country to live in this world if Raila took it over. Why he failed is not about those people who celebrated about. You see, these people are celebrating. If those things, they have got no effect. The effect came because our president interfered with some areas he was not supposed to do in Congo. In talking about Israel and Palestinian, you saw Mahmoud Abbas, the president of Palestine. He came purposely, and he talked about what he talked about before the vote. So he was driving a wedge between us and those people who are voting. That's exactly what happened. Kenyans may have said anything, but that one had got the actual effect of the vote, not at all. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Njuguna. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, tafadhali subscribe kama huja subscribe, na tunaomba tafadhali kama hujatuma mchango wako, tumia hizo details kutuma mchango wako. Leo ni tarehe 19, tunapaswa kuwa tumelipa StreamYard. We are in the reds right now. We need that $50 for StreamYard and $10 for VPN. So hakikisha umefanya hivyo, and then of course mchango wa kusaidia Frank pia usikose kutuma, na ukituma tafadhali hakikisha ni inbox useme hii ni ya Frank, na ukituma ya Frank pia useme hii ni ya shule, ama hii ni upkeep yake, ama hii ni ya nini. Kumbuka tunalipa rent ya nyumba yao, which is 11K per month. That is 10K for the house and 1K for the Wi-Fi in the house. So tunaomba tafadhali tusilegee. Hii ni project yetu. Kama kuna chochote ambacho tutafanya ambacho kitakuwa kumbukumbu kwa masuala ya Gen Z revolution, this is an opportunity for you to make history. He's a survivor from those particular Gen Z protest on the 25th of June 2024, that historic day, ile siku ya bunge. That is when he was spread over by 6 bullets. Leo tumekuwa town, kanambia nafikiria ni hapa ndipo nilipigwa risasi. So it's not far-fetched story, and I'm saying this because some of us here are so much caught up into running down an important thing like this into wherever unnecessary either tribe or gossip or tutajuaje ndio huyu Frank, tutajuaje huyu ndio alikuwa na 6 bullets. Kama unataka kujua basi kuja ukamkague, lakini nataka tu tukue watu machua na tutekeleze wajibu wetu, and I believe God that will be able to sustain that to the very end. If there is anything I don't want to fail is this one, or rather fail on everything else except make sure that Frank is on his 2 feet and able to take care of his grandmother and go on with his life. Asanteni sana. Eli, karibu tafadhali.
Asante Bernard. And the rest of the panel. Okay, I always like to contribute by trying to provide some solutions to our crisis, if we have any. So today I wanted to say maybe part of our problem that we can fix is we need to wake up those, literary giants, like people who would have been like, say, Ngugi wa Thiong'o of the 1980s, 1970s. We don't have this kind of people, Shere Mugo and all those kind of people in Kenya at the moment. If we have them, they're afraid of opposing the government, because you can use literature to sensitize people and cause a revolution. And most of the readers will be the so-called middle classes, because most of the working class will not afford these books. This is a fact. Or they'll be busy working, to earn something for the people they have left at home, the poor people. So we have a crisis with the middle class, and part of this is the force of literature that Kenya used to have, back in the day. These literature giants used to terrorize kina Moi, kina Kenyatta, mpaka they were locked up. And I think that if that vacuum is filled, then this is another addition to how we can oppose this regime. Because constantly I've been talking the past week about maybe the labor movement, but now I'm thinking about, the intellectuals who write and make us think about things. So, for example, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, when he wrote that Devil on the Cross, and essentially what we see now, what we have been seeing in the last 20, 30 years, this long transition from Moism, say 20 years, it's a long transition, which has been taking, it's been going at a slow pace. But what we see now is similar to what Ngugi wa Thiong'o was produced in The Devil in the Cross, talking about basically the poor and the wealthy, but the wealthy who are wealthy in such an absurd way, how they acquired their wealth, which now we use this polite term corruption. Someone like this former governor, Waititu, but by the way, I'm surprised that he's still in prison, because I was thinking that by the 3rd or 4th day, someone would have bumped up the, paid the fines, and he'd be out, because the judge, in his sentence, said that if he can pay that 54 million, he doesn't have to serve the term, 12 years. But what we have in this situation of Devil on the Cross is that this woman called, Waringa, had to run away from the city to seek a new life back in the village. And at the village, there were people there who were invited to have a feast of thieves, basically businessmen and corrupt people. And when she got there, she just realized that just like us, majority of Kenyans, that these thieves, they throw money at us during elections, during the campaigns, and to attend stupid rallies. So when she went back to the village from the city, she actually didn't know why she returned to the village, because she couldn't compete with those corrupt people who had come for the feast that they were invited for, you see. And the description of one guy, Ditika wa Goinji, or whoever can pronounce that better, of someone that you can see this kind of person in nearly all Kenyan politicians in parliament. Just the way this person is described, in Devil on the Cross. Exact thing what Ngugi wa Thiong'o was speaking about in 1981-82 there, when this book was published. There is no difference. And he made it quite clear. I mean, he was saying about this man, for example, about the way he was describing his wealth. As for cars, I have several, from Mercedes-Benz to Range Rovers, from Volvos to Peugeot 604. When I go out hunting young girls, I take them in my BMW, which for him it stood for Be My Woman, BMW. And it's quite true that if a young woman gets into your BMW, she can never say no. That's how Ngugi wa Thiong'o was describing this whole thing, which in comparison to what was happening in Kenya at the time, talking about his wife's shopping basket was a very expensive Fiat car. So when we see literature that has been used to show us what is happening in society, I am not saying that the generation we have now have not read these things, or even if they have read them, it has not helped them. But I think that back then, when the likes of Professor Ngugi were writing, these things were taken seriously. And in fact, I think it was one of the ways that we dealt with corruption, because we learnt it through this form of education, the literature that we read. And I think that it is time now that people should be, ready to revive this kind of writings, that can disturb, the corruption that is happening in the society. Because you look at someone like Moses Wetangula, when this so-called oil was discovered in Turkana, kwanza hiyo oil imeenda wapi? That oil, as soon as we heard about it, so many of these busybodies and politicians, they went and acquired land in Turkana, and it was said that, and you can quote me on this, that Moses Wetangula and other big-time lawyers were some of the people who acquired some big land there, because they thought that once this oil has been discovered and it's for commercial purposes, these people are going to be super wealthy. They will resell the land. And of course, we know what happened after all that. So in summary, I'm saying that there are some things that we need to continue doing in the way we did them in the 1980s, informing ourselves. Intellectual capacity is not for a chosen few. It's not for the rich. Anyone should be able to access information and prove these evil leaders wrong, because that's what they're doing, kunyanyasa watu na kuiba hadharani. I saw the what do you call this guy, the Inspector General of Police today, saying as if he was regretting that he's very ashamed when his children show him video footage on their phones of police officers that are being arrested daily for taking bribes in the streets. But you know that these police officers are earning peanuts. This is a fundamental issue because these people, they're earning rubbish. So in their job, they're being told to steal money from people so that they give to their sergeants, their inspectors, and they hire, including, you know, the top people in the police force. It's a business. But if we learn through literature that we can change things, that literature is not just a subject that is enforced. No, I strongly believe that I think that's part of our education system has failed us, and it maybe needs to be reviewed. And we don't have to have a class on corruption, on how to end corruption, an ethics class or things like that. In fact, those are kind of things that are actually taught in universities. There's modules about ethics in some of the university subject areas. Kids should not be overwhelmed with such kind of data about corruption and stuff. They should just be enjoying literature and learn how society works and what problems we have in a literary way. So that's my contribution for today.
Oh, all right, thank you, Ellie, for that important piece, and that I find that will be very rich because we have a disconnect with especially the current generation of young people. They seem not to be taking serious some of the things we talk about, dysfunctional governance, and this now corruption is almost made official. It is the surprising thing is that you are in a big office and you're not corrupt. Unlike in the past when corruption cases were a sign and a wonder and it would be headlines and all that. Nowadays, nobody even reads twice when they hear that Waititu has been sentenced 12 years. To them, it's normal and they know that it will just pass away. So we really need to work hard in ensuring that we get people to understand the gravity of this wherever misnomer that we allow to thrive in our society and the effect it will have to successive generations. And so literature becomes a very instrumental, and it looks like there is a systematic way of phasing out all those books and all those materials and replacing them with useless writings that don't add value. And so I think especially the millennials and us need to work hard in ensuring that we pass down whatever we learned or whatever that is necessary. And then good also, you talked about that kind of information needs to be given to university level, not for it to be buried, when the young people are still developing huko chini, and then it gets forgotten. Let it be something that's drummed into the system of those who are closer to getting into a leadership position. And, there's something that right information will always guide you, even when, get into leadership. You will have something to be reminded. But kama ni kwenda huko, you are an empty debe, you will make noise and nothing else. It's very sad. Also, our politics need to change. This politics of deceit and politics of taking advantage of one another needs to be redefined, and we begin to have politics that are really people-oriented and service-oriented. I remember when I was growing up as a child, I thought members of parliament don't get paid. And they are volunteering. That's my understanding. And so I was wondering, how can somebody campaign so hard to go and volunteer? But also those days, the members of parliament were not paid heftily like they are done today. And so it was more of kazi ya kujitolea. But today it is now an honor, it is a luxury, it is something that is praiseworthy and things like that. So we really have a lot to do in terms of causing that paradigm shift in the understanding and in the attitude of our young people. Thank you very much. Now, naomba tumsikilize.
Thank you. Can I say something on top of that? Just
quickly,
in addition
please.
to what you have said.
Yes.
I when I was growing up as a kid, I actually thought the same way as you said there. Nilikuwa nafikiri kina wale kina Owigo Lang, kina sijui Arthur Magugu, all those people, I used to think that these people are just there to help. They're like some sort of saints. They're not paid. And I think our generation, we thought about that because they were not earning that much money that we see them earning now. Also, my second point, Bernard, is I really, really commend you for, you know, what you do is you analyze when people are presented, they've made their submissions. You steer the discussion. You don't just throw it away. No matter what someone has contributed, you stick to the plan. You help us to analyze the situations. You don't have to be in our way of thinking, but you do this, and I think this is a very good format that you don't see in many platforms, to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and we'll keep doing what we can. And it's important. I think we need, as a people, to own whatever we are doing. If there is anything we need in leadership today, it's taking responsibility. You see the way we are now blaming each other. I mean, in the AUC, it is now Ruto, it is the diplomacy, it is the embassy, and things like that. But none of those people have come to own up and say, I am the problem. I am the one that flopped. We're looking for the easiest way to find fault with another person, except the really players. And so that paints a very bad picture for the young people. They don't see anybody owning up and taking responsibility. And then, of course, that in itself either discourages our young people to get into leadership, or they know that the only way to be a leader politically, you must be a liar and you must be running away from responsibility. Reverend Lala, please come in, and we are also running out of time.
Yeah. Asante Eli, it's good to hear you. Always I learn something from you and all of you here. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that when, as a country, we don't have a foundation which is truth, law, and ethics and all that, then we are in trouble. But history is very interesting, because if you look back, the way God, corrected the problem was through a war or a disaster, to start all over again. And where we are is so sad, because a great idea that we can teach maybe some of those classes and tell people, but you see, if the foundation, if the core part of that being is corrupted, then all we are doing is we're making them better. You give them more money, and you guys mentioned the old politicians. They were very innocent. They did their jobs. Okay. They were coming from let me give you that word, Afrocentric culture, a culture where everything had to be resolved. In all our cultures, whether it's the Luya cultures, Kikuyu culture, Luo culture, there was a sense that if you do something wrong, the gods or the spirits have to be appeased. In other words, saying one thing is doing the surface part was not enough. You have to go deeper because of the potential, of having a curse on the village. So people are more authentic, they are more true. Is there another spirit running around? Is there something going on? But you see, when we kind of closed that chapter, then what we did is that we came to a spot where we don't have anything. It's a rule for whoever, it's almost like we think of those beliefs as myths, when actually they are sources of the curse that we have, because we don't care. Here is a classical case where we know we have been wrong. Kenyans, we have been stealing elections. We know that the government, was not the right government. We know all that. And then now we are going out of this Kenya to sell that government as if, there's something wrong with us. It looked like God may have to start all over again. And finally, I wanted also to say something about, I think if you wrote my paper that I wrote regarding Djibouti. Okay, now, of course, the leadership comes from Djibouti. But the couple times I've been there, basically I've landed in some of those, basically this is a country controlled from outside. That's the other sad part. Africans should know that there are almost about 10 bases of militaries from outside. The US is the largest, followed by France. So when people like Ruto call the French president, what we are saying is this continent belongs to some people outside. And now that we have a new chair coming from Djibouti, that really the biggest income comes from those military bases. So primarily, its loyalty will be divided. Is it this guy's keeping my nation running, or is it the Africa? So there's another issue that we have not looked at, because we are really focusing on why Baba lost and Ruto and all that stuff. But there's a bigger question, which is really, is the continent really free? That's another question that we should be able to ask. Is this new leader, going to lead us in a direction that Africa should go, or is he going to listen to the people who pay? So there are so many questions that we have to ask ourselves, and even the question of I heard people talk about Baba being blocked everywhere. The question is, when Baba was blocked from being a president, by forces we knew from out of the country, and then we go to Djibouti, which is really controlled by these forces, that was, anti-Baba, there's a thread there that sometimes it's just something that we should be able to at least ask question, what is really going on here? Are there bigger plays that way above us? So these are some of the factors that may be hidden there that we may not see, because we are so much focused on that little thing, which of course ni kama tu viviranga kuku, pale anajaribu cover the baby, but the hawk is up there waiting for the time opportunity to kind of come and get it. Okay, get one of the vivirangas. So Africans, we are like those vivirangas down there that are just at the mercy of somebody else outside of ourselves. Whether it is the Congo issue, why are we having some of these challenges in Congo? And I said here, Bernard, that the outside hands are on both sides. They are on the one side or the other side. They're there, and their interest is the natural resources. Okay, when you see them in there, it doesn't mean the only person they are interested in is Rwanda. No, they're everywhere. Okay, and even this country, during election, all these big businesses give money on both sides. Whoever wins, they're with them. So these are factors that are there that I think some of our good minds, Africans, should be able to think, in those directions, so that we are able to really help people understand our fight. What are we fighting as Africans? Are we really saving ourselves? Are we really just playing a drama? In a Gestalt therapy, we just doing some little theater, or are we really getting this continent in the direction it should go? And I would blame the elite from our place, or from us, who are able to understand the art of communication, and secondly, help us with policies that are clear and also not shrouded with corruption the way we see it. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And then at the end of the day, we are losers, big time. Back to you, Bernard.
Oh, thank you very much, Reverend Lala, on that. And that hawk analogy is an interesting one. And the issue of why is Raila being blocked everywhere, as raised by Grand Mula, is something that we need to consider on a serious note. And this Raila phobia, we have lived with it locally. Has it become now an international issue? So this debate is not ending here. Probably we'll dig further in the same, because it could not just be the Raila phobia, it could be the Kenya phobia, and of course the Rutophobia, because we seem to be topping in all wrong things. If it's not abduction, it's corruption. If it's not corruption, it is overstepping our diplomatic whatever code and international rules. What is it about us that makes us to be a sensitive group of people?
Bernard.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this, and let me say it again. I've said it over and over again. The interest of the West and the East and everybody else in Africa is the control of our rare natural resources. We are the biggest producers of whether it's a cobalt or whether it is coltan and others. In other words, what we see around the globe may not exist in Africa. Say no. In fact, somebody said, I think it's Dr. Kirana, that if Africa stopped sending raw material to Europe, within 3 months, Europe will be a third world country. Think about that. So there is a huge interest to control the resources, because that's what makes the world running. We are simply a spare part shop where others come to get what they need. So they have to protect it for their own interests. So Baba seems to be a target of these people because they see him as an obstacle. He's called a field Negro, a smart one who can read and write, can see the signs of time and stop this thing. So Baba is that field Negro that had to be stopped at all costs so that Africa become or remain that open space where they can come and get what they need, just like that eagle come and hawk and get what they need. And that's why Kenya is important, because Kenya is a gateway to these places. And so who leads Kenya is of importance to all these forces, these powers around, the Indian Ocean and others. And that's why it is important for us to be able to think beyond our tribe, think about what is good for us as Africans. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Reverend Lala. Rasvik, you can come in quickly. It's a minute to
Yeah,
two, so nataka tufunge. So
Lala, your last point actually is what Eli was trying to say yesterday when Eli gave an example of social welfare, that the 6K Eli was talking about. It's exactly what you just described. That's the same point that you missed when Eli was explaining it in his own words. Okay, so I agree with you, Lala, that there are a lot of external forces that control and influence how, Africa, or particularly Kenyan election goes. There was a time that I used to be very passionate about, Kenyan election, until one time a good friend of mine is actually from Europe, but he lives in Kenya, and at one point he was like, a top diplomat, but that was the time when there was like lots of mandamano everywhere after Raila lost, and I picked him up from the airport, and we were having a conversation, and I told him, this time around Kenya imeumana. He told me, look here, young man, in this world, unfortunately, there's no democracy. It's about the rich and the poor. Then I told him, yeah, I understand it's about the rich and the poor, but this time around, Kenya have decided that kama mbaya ni mbaya. He told me, you know what, Raila and Uhuru are going to work together. Guess what? The next day on the news, there was that handshake. And after that, I stopped taking this thing so personal, because some of these handshakes and some of this working together, they're beyond Uhuru, they're beyond Raila, they're beyond Ruto, and they're beyond Kibaki. Kibaki was given an ultimatum to do a Mkatenusu government. He didn't want to do it, but he knew that after Meibakura, he was not ready to hand over power. The only alternative he had was the Mkatenusu government. So sometimes there is always a lot of external forces, because these foreign nations, they have interest in our country. Kenya is very strategic in terms of these European and Western nations, the Americans, in terms of getting intelligence. Unajua ukiingia Kenya, kama unataka kushika Al-Shabaab, hapo tu Kenya tu ukiingia ukiuliza, unajua vile naweza fika such a place, kuna Mkenya atakupatia hiyo intelligence mpaka atakuguide vile unafika. Ukitaka kushika Mkenya, you can just go to a bar in Westlands, say, you know what, tomorrow I need to go to Mabei in Karungu, and you've never been there before, but you'll just tell somebody, I've never been there, I don't know how I can get there. Is there a plane that goes there, or is there a bus? Somebody will give you intelligence until you'll get to Karungu. Then from there, they'll take you to the local chief, and the local chief will take you to the assistant chief, and the assistant chief will take you to the village elder, and you can track down that person so easy. It happened one time. There was a lady that was locked up in Baltimore, and she escaped. The Baltimore County Police sent out a beautiful lady to Kenya, and she was hanging out with my boys. They were so excited that, wameangukia mzungu. Eventually, this mzungu was buying them drinks and treating them. They hanged out with her until they were able to track this lady, and she was arrested and brought back to the US. So that is how these Western nations, they have more interest. That's why they have a lot of money to pour into our country. Si ati wanapenda wa Kenya sana. Kuna some of their own self-interest that they have in our nation, because kuna ndege zinatoka nje na zinaingia Kenya bila kupitia KRA. That's the bitter truth. There are so many small airstrips in Kenya whereby a plane can leave the US or Europe and lands into Kenya without going through KRA. Na sisi tukifika Jomo Kenyatta, we get so harassed, because they know how to pay their way out. They know there's a few people that, hey, to get a box, when they're in charge, we can do our own things. So the only way to change this is when Kenyans comes back to their normal senses and stop this ukabila and look at each other in the eye and say, what do we share in common? It's poverty that we share in common. Right now we are struggling even to get quality healthcare. Shisha is just a mess. Kuna family member naenda hosi, unabaki hapo na bill. We are in so many WhatsApp groups trying to raise money for our family members who are unable to pay their healthcare. We're in so many WhatsApp groups that we are trying to pay school fee for kids. These are things that in a well-developed nation we shouldn't be even having. Healthcare is something that is a human right. Education is a human right. These are things that we need to be free in our country right now. In this age and time. Let's not waste a lot of time, discussing how Baba lost, how it's pathetic to the nation. It's going to divert us from addressing the real issues like healthcare, addressing the real issues about the education system in Kenya, which is now a total mess. Even the teachers themselves don't even understand what is going on. What is going to happen to schools like Alliance, Stare, those big schools, Maseno? With this current education system, those schools are going to be rendered so useless. And those schools over the years had already established their names. You coming out of Stare or Maseno or Alliance or, Maranda or Kakamega, Kisii, those schools struggle to uplift themselves up to those status. Then all of a sudden we're coming with a very useless education system that we don't understand. The new education system is very good, but it needs a lot of funding. Without good funding, it won't succeed. They are copy pasting the American system of education, but it's going to be very difficult. In America, you'll find that almost all schools, all public schools are well equipped for that kind of curriculum. They have enough classes with a few students in those classes with enough teachers and supporting staff in every class to support those kind of activities. They have libraries, they have labs, they have computer labs that, whenever they are doing those kind of curriculum, it's working for them. But our country, we're trying to implement a system whereby kuna shule mingi sana hata hazina hata tablet. It's going to be very difficult. We need to implement an education system that is more practical as per our system. Alafu, this ukabila inafaa wachane nayo kabisa, kwa sababu haitatupeleka anywhere. If we have Rigathi going in every province, every town, encouraging every community to be themselves, to lead themselves and to govern themselves, and we have likes of Duale, telling us how tyranny of numbers is in the bedroom. That kind of politics is going to take us nowhere. It's just going to bring a lot of hate. I think the position that Baba they need to create for Baba now is just to chase Rigathi day and night. That should be like the next project, so that he can be eliminated completely, and this politics of hate maybe will go down. Because the more we give him microphone, everywhere he goes, the first thing he tries to encourage every community to, think about themselves first. And once we spread that mentality, it's going to take us back from, where we've come from. We've gone past that. Most of our prior old politicians, in the 90s, early 90s and late 80s, they fought for multipartyism. They fought for, people's right. That's why we are able even to be on this kind of platform right now, giving our own opinions. Kuna time, hey, Belanda angeshabebwa kitambo, hii show ingekuwa ishakuwa shut down kitambo. So, I was amazed in another forum. somebody was asking people what has Raila achieved, and in that forum, they were just people of the same mindset, and none of them could even count one thing that Raila has done. I was like, you guys, if you have people with a common mindset of hate, and you expect a change to happen, there's no change that is going to happen. Then in another forum, there was someone was talking about if Raila and Ruto collabo, they are finished. You don't wish that to happen in Kenya. Raila has strong support base, and if he works with Ruto, it's going to be dangerous. That's like the last thing that you will ever wish for Kenya, because they're going to use that hate that we have to spread their propaganda, and their support base is just going to buy into that propaganda. So we need to have some serious conversations that make sense to convince each other support base, because when we move as Kenyans, we need to offboard these basis comfort zones that we are, these tribal corners that we are in, these party corners that we are in. If these parties are not working for us, we have to go back to the basic and look at how we can all solve our problems, because shida shisha, it's the same in Mount Kenya, and it's the same in Kisumu, it's the same in Kakamega. You're paying your premium, ikifika time umeenda hosi unaambiwa hey, system iko down, ati hii ina cover tu sijui what, and you thought that it was going to cover majority of your medical bill, or mtoto wako amepita shule anafaa kwenda kampo, haezi pata any kind of funding. Now, all this time alikuwa nafikiria manze ndapata ka student loan ile itani skuma. Back in the days, most students used to complete campus without their parents even noticing how they made it. But their fees was paid, they were being given money for upkeep. Walikuwa nakani kama watu wanafanya job na wafanyi job, they were just students. So right now education has become so expensive, it's like a big business in Kenya right now. Your child can only get quality education depending on how you can cough out, and it's really frustrating parents. And I can relate to most parents in Kenya when their children need to go to college, and mzazi hana pesa, but mtoto hataki kujua mzazi hana pesa. So parents are like really struggling. So please, tuacheni ukabila.
Okay, Sasa, thank you, Rasvik. That's a good one and important indeed. It's interesting on how we become economical with the truth, yet we want to fight lies. And it borders on that dishonest aspect in our argument, simply because we want to argue and sustain a narrative that has no basis. So we begin to heap a lie upon a lie, and just to keep ourselves satisfied with our misguided understanding. The truth is, life is different from that, and so you can't hold a narrative until that narrative becomes the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It is important that we look at the whole scenario. And Kenya has made strides and ahead, but we have also fallen back from most of our gains, and all of it is in this mix of the leadership that was not expected. The Ruto presidency was not for 2022, and that has been an uphill, and it will continue to be. It was to come later. Then later it would have worked, but now he came into office prematurely, unprepared, and there was a lot that needed to be done. And so in his attempt to try to do what he wished to do, he did the wrong thing and touched so many things. You don't change so many things when you're newly in the office and you don't know much that makes things to work. And so we are in a mess, and that mess is going to take long to fix it. But as Kenyans, we should devote ourselves to the same. I will repeat what Ras said. If we are going to make progress, we should desist from the tribal card that is being swayed. I just saw this headline, and so it has interesting. For those people who think Raila is insignificant and immaterial, Raila ang'ang'aniwa. Okay, that's a headline for Taifa Leo. Raila ang'ang'aniwa. So the Rick G want Raila, Ruto wants Raila. Kenyans are happy Raila is back, and so others are angry Raila is back. So whichever way, but the fulcrum of Kenyan politics is still Raila Odinga, no matter how we look at the same. But I pray that Raila will not be pushed to the corner where he will make decisions that are not going well with the masses. He has always acted in most of his political life in the interest of the masses. I think he needs to get back to the same. But there are some cornered situations that make him make decisions that are not popular, and in the process, he gets a lot of bashing, like what is going on right now. But the Kasongo agreement, it is just Kasongo agreement, and like it was ably put, their force is stronger and bigger than what we see around that make those things happen, those handshakes and those being forced for broad-based government. There is always that big brother thing that really pushes these people. And at times, the Raila decisions and the Uhuru decisions and the Ruto decisions are beyond them. They are forces that push them into that direction. I want on this note to call it a day, unless Eli unala kuongezea na kana madhi hapa ameenda.
No, I'm good, and satisfied with the show. We've done really well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I will leave us with the Kumekucha's analysis of his latest, just to keep in the perspective of what he sees or what has gone down, and then of course how does he view it. I always value his observations. So let's listen out to this as we sign out, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep it a sound candid talk. Thank you.
Raila Odinga Prime Minister in Ruto's government? At what? What are people saying? Raila Odinga Prime Minister in Ruto's government? At what? What are people saying? At the ODM-UDM merger? Aye. Is it a merger we're waiting for? Or is it that the split in ODM that we're witnessing will be actualized, will be complete? Which is which? Welcome to my show today. Moto kama at least pasi 10 ya makaa. A very warm welcome, where hopefully we'll clear the confusion in analyzing Kenyan politics at the moment, because there is a lot that is happening. Karibu sana. And then also, I have a special message of goodwill. A message I'm sure many on this channel are looking forward to. Yeah, based on your comments in a previous video. I have that message all in this show just for you to enjoy. Welcome back. And actually today we have a lot to cover. I believe at the end of the show today, there should be a lot more clarity about what is really going down in our politics. Because you can't blame Kenyans. It's rather confusing. After the Addis Ababa fiasco, we have come back into full-blown Kenyan politics, moving at a very fast pace. Pop, 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 pop. Many things happening. And indeed, there was a question yesterday for me on our Telegram forum. After a Kenyan noticed that we have too many prominent Kenyans leaving the planet, all happening in rapid succession. And they posed the question, Chris, what is happening? What is happening spiritually? Or is this just a coincidence? I will also answer that question on my show today. In consultation with people who should know, with sources that should know, I will answer that question also right here on this show. So I urge you to stay with me. But first of all, a message of goodwill, a message of thanks. You know, a few videos ago, my last-born daughter did an intro to one of my videos that was very well received. And I'll quote her response verbatim. Thank you very much. I am very grateful for all those very nice, lovely comments. But I need to tell you, I did not do it all at once, effortlessly. I tried many times before I could get it right. And therefore, we should all be encouraged that if you fail the first time, try again and again and again until you get it right. End of message. I believe I have been accurate. And I have something little to add. We're in the season of exposure, and therefore I guess it is a good idea to flow with the season before the season overtakes you and drowns you. And so I feel I need to reveal something today. Okay? Their mother was a great believer in homeschooling. Now that is controversial because homeschooling in Kenya is illegal. I'm sure some of us know that. In fact, there is an ongoing case in court where some Kenyans are fighting for it to be recognized by government. Now, partly because I move a lot, I've been moving a lot in my line of work, but mainly because my late wife was a great believer in homeschooling. Most of the education my children have had so far has been homeschooling. Now, this is not to say that their mother was well educated. On the contrary, she did not have much of an education, but she was very determined and using the internet and the little she knew and consulting me where she didn't know. The result is what you see today, which I believe is extraordinary. Bottom line, it was her and not some expensive posh schools somewhere charging millions of shillings in fees. No, it wasn't like that. Moral of that story, you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything. It is possible as long as you're very determined. Your past is not important. What is important is to focus on the future and focus on what you want. Yeah, I hope that will encourage many of us on this channel, because I'm very sure those who have been with me for a long time know that I value the truth. And what I have told you is nothing but the truth. My late wife did not even go to high school. True story. Never mind what you have heard before. Because you see, when you're writing an eulogy, while you're in the condition you're in, you're grieving. People will not allow you a free hand. And some people may want to twist the truth for convenience. allow me to leave it there. Right. Raila Odinga Prime Minister, there is clearly a very strong push from Ruto people that Raila Odinga must be a powerful Prime Minister in the Ruto government. And for those of us with the memory of an elephant, we will remember that Junet Mohammed told us they are sure they are going to be the next government. ODM is going to be the next government. It happened very early during the formation of this broad-based government. Broad-based government. But I believe the main question we need to ask is, can it work? Especially now, when clearly we see in ODM, there are those people who support the government assisting, let me put it in their language, assisting the Ruto regime, although the truth is propping up the Ruto regime. There are those who support it, and there are those who are strongly against it, like Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. And therefore it is not surprising that Edwin Sifuna is being fought a lot. Bloggers are digging up every dirt they can find. Even what is not dirt is being spun and twisted to look like that to finish Edwin Sifuna. We can all see that going down. And now there is a brand new spanner that has been thrown into the works. It seems that Ruto has surrendered to Raila Odinga in parliament. Oh yes, we just scared. The two parties have come to an agreement over this majority-minority party in parliament and over the impeachment of Wetangula, which Junet Mohammed and other ODM legislators have promised Kenyans they will do. Now it seems that has been shelved. At a meeting in State House, Nairobi, recently, a deal was reached. And the long and short of this deal is that it gives Raila Odinga's troops more power in parliament, in the National Assembly, especially in the House committees. Now we all need to understand that the House committees are the engine of parliament. Now, Raila seems to have more power in the House than Ruto. And this latest development seems to confirm that this talk about Raila being the Prime Minister, an influential, powerful Prime Minister in the Ruto government, is not just hot air. There is something there, don't you think? Folks, for all intents and purposes, it seems that we are going back to the grand coalition government manenos of 2008. That is how it looks. Because all the signs are there. And if anybody is looking for evidence to support this, it is there. Ish. And therefore the big question, the big political question we must ask ourselves is, will it work? Will it? And we're going to answer that question very thoroughly shortly. But first, allow me to mention our sponsors for today's show, which is Samima Rice Gardens. This is off the Kenol Nyeri Marua Road. You know Kenol Town in Muranga? It's very famous. Now there are plots of 50 by 100 being offered at Samima Rice Gardens. Of course, you can have a larger area by taking in more plots. And this location is just perfect, because it is very close to essential facilities like schools, hospitals, etc., etc. And the asking price for a plot is only Kenya shillings 1.2 million. And guess what? There are payment plans available. Where you can spread out the payments. Even bank financing options that are bound to make the whole deal seamlessly easy for anybody who's interested. Now, I was introduced to this development by somebody who has supported this channel for a very long time. They got in touch with me and told me, Chris, I think your people will be very interested in this one. And I know the man behind it. And I am so convinced I'm going to do everything on their behalf. That is exactly what happened. And so I suggest you take a closer look at it. Now you can see a telephone number on your screens right now, 0722-724-830. Speak to the owner himself, Bwana Mugi Mwangi. Isn't it just lovely to know that you're not dealing with any middleman? Right. Let us get on with the show. In my opinion, what we have here is a collision course that has been set up. And definitely, two major forces are going to collide shortly. And of course, the result is going to be chaotic. Which two major forces am I talking about? The people of Kenya, the sovereign, the long-suffering people of Kenya on one side, and then on the other side, the political class looking after their own selfish interests. It is very clear that there are many politicians within the ODM party who are very happy, very excited to be in government, to hold government positions, to have some power in government. That is very clear. And the same politicians have promised you, dear and Ruto, that if you have us inside your government, everything will be okay. The masses follow us blindly. Kenyans will follow us blindly into this broad-based government. I think they're very mistaken because Kenya has changed. I keep on saying that. This is a different season. And indeed, it is because of the season that now Kenyans are clearly seeing with their own eyes. The devious character of politicians we respected, the devious character of people in the ODM party, and it looks like it's the vast majority of them. Bottom line, all these politicians are the same. UDA, ODM, they are the same. That is what Kenyans are learning. And to put it in the words of a Kenyan who posted something online this morning, it is good that ODM has joined UDA. It is good that Raila has joined Ruto, and they're all together in one basket. That is very good news for Kenyans. Why? Because we'll be able to bring them all down at the same time in one move. Oh yes. There is something else that is coming out very clearly in all this, and that is the sheer desperation of Bwana Ruto. You know, when Ruto was deputy president and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was the president, Ruto was disgusted that Uhuru Kenyatta would actually think, not even do, would actually think of a handshake with Raila Odinga. According to Ruto, Uhuru was being weak. According to Ruto, Uhuru angekaa ngumu. According to Ruto, Uhuru did not know what he was doing. How can he have a handshake with Raila? And he fought it all the way. However, now, the same Ruto has realized, vitu kwa ground, iko tofauti. I'm sure he has realized by now, even if he has not spoken it, that actually Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta may not have been as weak as he initially thought. You know, it is very easy to be an armchair critic. It is very easy to look at somebody else sitting on a seat and to criticize them. It is something completely different for you to sit on the same seat, to be exposed to the same pressures. And then you realize, kumbe vitu kwa ground, they were very different from what I thought. And this is precisely what has happened to William Samoei Ruto. But you see, Ruto is not in a good position. He's not. There are so many things that can go wrong for him. Oh, so many. Please allow me to take you back briefly to history. And you'll see something that will shock you to your bones. There was a time when Raila Odinga and his party, then NDP, joined the powerful KANU government of Daniel Toroitich of Moi. Raila and his cronies were put into cabinet positions. Pop! Raila then became Secretary General of KANU. Okay? Now it is very important to note that Raila did not betray KANU. He remained with KANU and was faithful to Moi until the last minute when something happened. Yeah, that's a very important point to note, especially when we look at what we think is going to happen in Kenya next. Okay? And everything was okay until President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi named his preferred successor for the presidency. That is when kiliumana kuumana. Yeah, I'm sure many Kenyans know the story. Raila Odinga led a rebellion out of KANU, that included even other KANU MPs who were never an NDP and who were never supporters of Raila. People like Professor George Saitoti, Mudi Awori, and many, many politicians from the Rift Valley, staunch supporters of KANU. Raila led many powerful politicians to leave KANU and form a party called LDP. And it is this LDP that merged with the rest of the opposition to remove KANU from power for the first time since independence. Okay? Fast forward to the present. Wouldn't it be true to say that it is highly likely that Raila Odinga and ODM will not betray Ruto? But somewhere down the road, something will happen. And the ODM troops will lead many powerful politicians out of Kenya Kwanza to merge with the opposition to remove Ruto from power. Don't you think that makes sense? I believe that is a very highly likely scenario. You know, people were to later say about the NDP KANU merger that KANU, the cockerel, swallowed the tractor. Yeah, the tractor was a symbol of Raila Odinga's NDP party. KANU swallowed the NDP, the tractor. But then people forgot to switch off the engine of the tractor, and the tractor continued moving, and it ate all the insides of KANU, the cockerel, until there was nothing left. And of course the cockerel fell, died. Yeah. And the tractor continued and powered its way out of the KANU carcass. That's what people are saying. Very interesting analogy. That is also very accurate in telling us exactly what happened then politically, and what could easily happen very shortly politically in the country called Kenya. By the way, people are still talking about how Raila Odinga lost an election, and some hilarious Kenyans are saying he lost an election in a city named after him. How so? Addis Ababa. Kenyans are very funny. So people are talking about how Baba lost an election in a city called Addis Ababa, and they're trying to debate and find out. And many, many revelations are emerging as to why Raila lost. But this morning, somebody shot me an email and asked me the question, Chris, what happened to the powerful Western nations that have a big influence within the African Union? Yeah. And of course, we are sure they were supporting Raila Odinga. Actually, they were supporting Ruto, who was supporting Raila. What happened, Chris? What went wrong? Could they not have done a pop, 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 pop? Raila duly elected. What happened? Well, I believe the answer is very simple. The power dynamics have shifted tremendously, since that change in the White House. The support Ruto was getting is not the same. Indeed, our immediate former Prime Minister, Meg Whitman, is no longer there. She left. And therefore, William Ruto finds himself in a very lonely place where he has to get many things done by himself. And one example was the EU elections, where the night before, clearly the president did not sleep. He did not sleep. No expense was spared. No effort was spared to ensure that Raila Odinga won those elections. But he lost. Okay? I believe that is the answer to that question. And it also brings out something shocking. It means that those things which were being defeated in a country called Kenya before, because of this powerful Western influence, now, as we talk, we can confidently say, Vindu vichenjanga. Things have changed. Do you realize what that means? It means there are a lot of things that cannot be the same as they were before. Now, that is a major statement with far-reaching implications. But let us wait and see how things unfold. Now, finally, there is a question I promised to answer. Mbona watu wakubwa wengi sana wanatuacha kwa ghafla? Okay? Now, I have reason to believe that we have entered a very deadly phase of this season of judgment and exposure, where it is highly likely, if we are correct, that we're going to lose many watu wakubwa in the nation called Kenya. Now, this is not a popcorn moment. This is a moment for every one of us to retreat to themselves and ask themselves many questions about what they've done in the past that was evil, what the ancestors have done in the past that was evil, and to repent and to ask Yahweh for forgiveness, and to move closer to the Almighty. It is extremely important because it is a deadly season, and Almighty God does not favor any man. And therefore it is prudent, instead of looking at the sins of others, you look at your very own sins. Okay? Just allow me to leave it there for now. This is the last call for my latest special report, which reveals a lot of what is happening in the inner circle, confirmed by many things we've discussed today. The presidency suddenly a very lonely place. But there's some super fascinating things happening deep in the presidency, which we should not ignore. Indeed, which we should pay close attention to if we want to start guessing accurately what is going to happen next. And in this Kipindi Chalala Salama, strictly only for the next 24 hours, you'll be able to get this special report and all previous special reports for the crazy price of only Kenya shillings 1,999. So please rush, please take full advantage of this, and please do everything in your power to avoid being time barred. Because 24 hours from now is a very short time indeed. I believe you can see all the details in front of your screens right now. And all that is left is for you to take action quickly. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.
At Sound Candid Talk, we provide live UHD broadcasting for church services, talk shows and podcasts, weddings, live bands, products and services launches, webinars and trainings, Zoom meetings, conferences, seminars, exhibitions, and virtual concerts.